All right.
And I
So
told
speak in the
you.
microphone when you're
I'm
ready.
just trying to find something I want to find
Relationship.
out.
That's good. Yeah.
Good evening and welcome to the meeting of the Town of Fishkill Planning Board for Thursday, August 11th, 2022. I'm Anthony Brozier, Vice Chair of the Town of Fishkill Planning Board. Chairman Jonathan Cantor is absent this evening, so I'll preside over the agenda tonight as Chair. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started, I have a few announcements. I've already mentioned that John Cantor will not be joining us this evening, but with that said, I am appointing our alternate planning board member, Vijay Gopal S. Kilambi, as a voting member for this evening. Reminder for cell phones, please silence your cell phone or other electronic device while in the meeting room. And also, those who come up to the microphone, please speak into the microphone so the audience in the room and at home can all hear what we're saying. Due to the late completion of several planning board meetings, any applications that would require the meeting to continue past 11 p.m. may be carried over to the next scheduled planning board meeting, which would be Thursday, September 8th, 2022. First item on our agenda is the approval of minutes. Board to approve and adopt the May 12th, 2022 and the June 9th, 2022 planning board meeting minutes. Non-substantive corrections on the draft minutes were provided to the chair by Debbie Colonna in the planning office. Do members have any additional comments or corrections on the draft minutes at this time?
I do not.
Not hearing any. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve and adopt the minutes of the May 12th, 2022 meeting?
So moved.
Felix moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Bob second. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Carries 7-0. Would someone like to make a motion to approve and adopt the minutes of the June 9th, 2022 meeting?
So moved.
Felix moves it. I have a second.
Second.
Jody second. Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries 7-0. First item on our agenda tonight is a public hearing, Johnson Trails 5-lot subdivision. At 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as possible, applicant seeks to subdivide a 7.2 acre parcel into 5 lots. Lot 1 shall consist of 1.77 acres, Lot 2 shall consist of 1.19, Lot 3, 1.16 acres, Lot 4, 1.32 acres, and Lot 5, 1.04 acres. All lots shall be served by individual wells and septic. A road shall be constructed through the existing adjacent parcel, identified as tax map parcel 6356-01-131668, allowing access to Mountain View Road. The parcel for this proposal is in the R40 zoning district and is located on Route 82 adjacent to Mountain View Road and Penny Place. This is a continuation of the public hearing that was opened by the planning board at their July 14th, 2022 meeting, so we do not need a motion to reopen. Just a note to the public, this application is only on the agenda for the public hearing tonight. There is no project review later on in the agenda. So first I will ask the applicant's representative to please provide a brief summary of items that have occurred or key changes that have been made since our last meeting in July.
Sure. Thank you, Chairman. Mike Gillespie from M. Gillespie & Associates, the consulting engineer for the project. As you indicated, we had our, let's call it our initial public hearing at the last meeting. There were a number of comments that came out from the public relative to the proposal. We are, in addition, since that time, we've actually received a number of other comments that have been forwarded from Debbie. We'll go ahead and respond to those specifically as well. That being said, most of the comments really came in and that were stated at the last meeting kind of had a common theme on a couple of concerns. And one was the issue relative to the access point of the subdivision coming out on Mountain View Road. So at one point, this board circulated for lead agency, and there was a referral to the DOT. We had always proposed this access point, so in terms of DOT's position or comment on any potential access out onto 82, there was nothing said in their response. So that being said, we went ahead and petitioned New York State DOT, and we have in our position, which we will respond to and provide in our next submittal, a letter from Cassandra Bibbo, the permit engineer, indicating that in no uncertain terms, they would not allow an access point at 82 for this project. Number one is, even if there was not an adjoining property that allowed for access, there's still Penny Place. And they would not allow access to 82. You would have to come in through Penny Place. Now, Penny Place access certainly is an option. That being said, if that in fact the access came off of there, the traffic flow coming from this subdivision, whether it was 5 lots or 4 lots, it's a different configuration, would actually travel out of Penny Place, come around to Mountain View, and then work its way out, passing effectively, let's say, 10 to 12 homes, plus or minus. And we're going to provide clarification on that on the next submittal in terms of exact how many homes and provide that comparison. That being said, with this access point, if you take a right coming out of the subdivision, not including the home that the current owner has, which we're doing a lot line realignment on to provide this access, there's 3 homes. There'll be 2 homes on the right, and there'll be 1 on the left. So in terms of any potential increased flow in traffic relative to the subdivision as a whole that exists, you're basically impacting 3 homes rather than quite a bit more. I had the opportunity before coming to the meeting tonight too. I wanted to just get a feel for the subdivision that exists in the rear. So I drove in, came through came in through the other road that acts on 82, which is further to the south. Cherry Lane, thank you. Worked my way in, kind of went to the back. So when you hit the intersection of Mountain View and Cherry, everything beyond that is basically along cul-de-sac. There's a couple of spur roads and things like that, but there is no outlet there. So everything from those homes comes out to this location at this intersection, and you can either go straight on Mountain View, or you can take the left on Cherry and still work your way out to 82. In fact, when I left, I followed a vehicle that actually was coming to Town Hall tonight to speak, and they were actually on the backside of Mountain View, and they came all the way out, and even if they were going south, they came out at the Mountain View exit on 82. I think for the majority of the homes in the rear, that's probably the access point, but again, we're going to provide some information relative to the impact, if at all, relative to these 5 lots as related to all the homes in the rear on that particular intersection. 82 is 45 posted in that area. Granted, nobody does a speed limit anymore, it seems, so I certainly understand in terms of the public's concerns relative to the cars that are coming through that intersection, but it's certainly not an unattainable way to access 82 and then come off of 82 onto it. You know, just like any intersection, I'm sure there's accident reports and things such as that, but it's not as precarious as it may seem. So those particular points, again, the access on 82, which again, we'll make that part of our formal submittal the next run around, in addition to the impact or potential impact on the intersection of Mountain View and 82. I'm not particularly sure. There's other ways this subdivision could have been done to provide a lot more potential impact on the subdivision that exists. Okay, so again, we'll elaborate that on our next submittal. And again, we just got the letter from DOT yesterday, so we haven't submitted it. We didn't want, last minute kind of stuff, but we'll make that part of our formal submittal next time around. All right. In terms of the plan, we're still working on, in terms of the stormwater and things such as that. So we're getting that close to being where it needs to be, and then we'll get that in for the following month if the board's so inclined to allow us to adjourn as to, the next meeting in September. So that's our wrap up.
Thank you. I believe after we receive the public comment tonight, we'll discuss whether we believe the hearing should be kept open. I know we
Yeah,
were
that's-
asking for some additional items at the last meeting.
Yep.
And we didn't receive any new submittals, so
Yeah.
we'll talk about that at the end. But I'd like to first get into the comments that we received through email the past month, and then I'll open it up to the floor here for public comment.
Sure.
We did receive several emails. First one from the Ramos family on August 3rd. Topics mentioned in the email included concerns about Mountain View Road, concerns about safety of children playing outside, being adversely impacted. An email from James Dunn dated August 2nd. The letter mentioned concerns about the impact of the new homes on aquifer and adjacent existing wells, and concerns about the health department testing and monitoring, desire for buffering along adjacent property lines, and concerns about Mountain View Road as the access point. Message from Rosemary Thorne on August 11th. Message was about a desire to have a road design that is safe and reasonable. Email from John Hupe on August 11th. Commenter mentioned concerns about Mountain View Road. Email from Sandy Rivera on August 11th. Commenter mentioned concern about Mountain View Road. And finally, from Jeff Guthrie on August 11th, concerns about excavation, drainage, runoff, septic impacts to adjacent wells, and also concerns about Mountain View Road. And those were provided before the meeting, so not only does the board have it, but so does the applicant. By a show of hands, is there anyone who wishes to speak at the public hearing tonight for this item? Okay, then I will read through the rules of conduct for public hearings. Speakers are asked to come to the podium and identify themselves so that their name may be entered into the record. Speakers are limited to one turn at the microphone. Speakers are limited to no more than 4 minutes. There will be a warning when there is 1 minute left. Speakers should provide only new or different information or commentary. Repetitive comments are prohibited. Speakers are encouraged to submit their comments in writing so that they could summarize their comments provided during the hearing. Comments are limited to matters involving the business before the board. Verbal interruptions, shouting, or other outbursts, as well as slanderous or obscene language or making signs with the body or face are prohibited. No speaker shall make any personal attacks on anyone. And finally, if a person continues to interrupt the chair after the chair has asked them to stop, they will be asked to leave and escorted from the meeting room if necessary. I did see a show of hands. I did see you, sir. If you'd like to come up, please provide your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name's Daniel McNally. I live on Mountain View Road, and this gentleman mentioned it's only passing 3 houses, which is, I don't see it being correct. Well, number 1 house, the house that it's going on, that's a rental house, and they have 4 cars in that driveway. They're in and out all the time, and that's the owner of the people that bought the property. Then there's 2 more houses on the right-hand side. That makes 3 total. And he says there was 3. Down across the street, there is another house, and then there's another house, another driveway right next to Mountain View. That's 5. Now there's also passing Ackland. You turn in Ackland, you got 1, 2, 3 more houses. So we're at 5, we're at 8 houses, not 3. Also, with the DOT, I find it very interesting because if I've got a map from Dutchess Geo Access right here that has the property right here, and I didn't outline this. This was downloaded, and it goes right out to 82. Okay, it has no other access across lawns or Penny Place. We especially don't want Penny Place, but we don't see why it can't go through what is there, and it's made for this development, this road, not through here. Another map I have, which is we got from the town hall, the assessor's office, and that's right here. As I show you, here's the planned development, here's the road here. Mountain View Road in the opening is 50 feet. The one that is made for this development is over 59. It's 59 0.4 feet. So it's actually a wider opening also. So it's just, I don't know why DOT, and I'd like to, eventually see their letter, why they can't come out that way. Because another very important thing is emergency service vehicles, such as fire trucks, ambulances, police cars. God forbid, somebody's house catches on fire back there, or there's an accident on the property, someone gets hurt, or whatever. That means instead of just driving down 82, taking a right onto the road that goes straight in there from 82, the road that we want put in. So they go down 82, take a quick right, and a few hundred feet, you're in that development. Rather than turning on to Mountain View Road, and we have people walking, we have kids on bicycles, we have older people on bicycles, we got people walking dogs, we got a lot of activity on our road. So now you've got a fire engine coming down there at a higher rate of speed, a police car, an ambulance. Now that's a new road. Maybe the people aren't used to seeing that road. Let's say they pass it. Now you got to turn a fire engine around. So rather than going into a already set development, an older development, that road was put in the 40s. We're not looking for any more traffic. And it's a lot easier if a call comes in for a fire engine or a police car or an ambulance to go down, take a quick right, and within a couple hundred feet, they're in that development. So I don't know what DOT sees wrong with it. Actually, I'd like to see what DOT sees wrong with it. And we already live in a developed community. We bought there. We like where we live. We pay taxes. We vote. And we want to keep it the way it is. We don't need anything added onto our backs. Thank you very much. I appreciate letting me come up here and speak, and appreciate your concern.
I'm going to kindly ask, I went through the rules, please refrain from any reaction, positive or negative, please. Dominic, if you could, for the next, I don't know if we were keeping time on that. Oh, okay.
He was just under.
Yeah. No problem. I wasn't keeping, so I wasn't going to stop the comment, so. Yes, you, sir.
Good evening, my name is Ralph Pineda. I'm a retired New York State Trooper. My wife and I moved into 53 Cherry Lane in November, and since we've been there, she kind of got angry with me for going out Cherry onto 82, because if you're coming out of Cherry onto 82, traffic coming northeastbound, it's kind of a blind intersection. You're taking a chance when you come onto 82 off of Cherry, especially if you're going left. So she was right. Every day I see it myself. I go out Mountain View just because I don't want to take the risk of traffic coming up from the northeast on 82. There's not a lot of reaction time. Even at 45, traffic's moving pretty quick through there. Okay, so that's something to be considered. So most of the people, I would say, that coming out of there are coming out on Mountain View just to be safe. Now you have two plazas across the street with different shops and that, with full open parking lots. Your traffic's coming every which way out of there. Traffic coming at the end of the day off of the Taconic are moving pretty quick on 82, coming from the northeast to the southwest. But you have a little more reaction time with stuff that's coming northeast. So please reconsider coming out of Mountain View, because it's just going to make things a lot worse.
Thank you. Show of hands of anybody else who wishes to make a comment tonight? Yes, you, sir. Straight, yeah.
How you doing tonight? My name's Frank C. Graff, 31 Cherry Lane, Fishkill. I worked for Metro-North for 34 years, and I've seen a lot of this. First of all, the developments, like Danny said, the roads have been built in the 40s. If you built them then in the 40s and came in off 82, why wouldn't you do the same thing now? And since I've been living there in the 21 years, there's been 10 accidents on that corner, right across the plaza. I don't know if anybody died, but you're just going to make a Harvard show worse. So I thank you for your time, because everything they said, I was going to say the same thing. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, you, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Diana Vanderwerf, 37 Mountain View Road. One of my many concerns is the wells. Many of the shallow wells from 25 foot to 70, drilling new deep wells could possibly affect the aquifer system and may leave existing homes with no water. So what or anything are going to be done? Is there a plan in place if some of the houses lose the water? And again, my concern is also coming out of Mountain View. It's not just the houses that are right off of Mountain View. There's a lot of houses way in the back that have to come through there. So you got the buses, you got the people going to work, and then you got the people coming back. So rush hour traffic over there is really horrendous. So I want you to please reconsider that. Thank you.
Show of hands of anybody else? The one straight behind my podium.
Good evening. My name is Debbie Bayshar. I live at 105 Mountain View. Earlier in the spring, I had called town to find out when the last time that the roads in Mountain View and Cherry and Penny had been paved. Any of you know that answer? It's a long, long time, possibly over 30 years. The condition of those roads is horrendous. I came from Wappingers, lived there for 20 years, and the road that I had lived on in that time had been paved, a little nervous, had been paved twice. Some places on that road and the roads I've walked at night, and there's no asphalt whatsoever. Now I called in the spring and they said, well, it was supposed to be paved this year, but the funds were allocated to another project that was more important at that time. So they told me it was supposed to be scheduled for next year. Okay, next year. When is this going to be done? Is this going to be done before, after, during? If we're getting a new road? And what's the damage to this new road with all the construction and trucks coming in and out on these roads? I mean, are the funds that are supposed to be allocated to Mountain View and Cherry going to be spent elsewhere because this project is going to come in and take precedence over us having new roads? I think that's a good question to ask. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and I would encourage you to speak with the town board. I know we heard you tonight. That particular item, in my mind, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, is not really the purview of this particular project, and that you know, my presumption is that that's town road. And so the town board should be made known of that, both in writing and by your attendance at town board meeting in person. But we do hear you tonight. It's just unfortunately not in our purview. Any other? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Richard Peck. I live at 120 Mountain View, and my primary concern really is the traffic flow. To reiterate what Mr. Pineda had said, Cherry Lane is a terrible, terrible place to get out onto Route 82. Very, very dangerous. Cherry has about 15 or 16 houses on it. If all those houses, I don't know if all of them, but many of them would come down and around already to go up Mountain View. So our exit is already additionally clogged up with extra traffic just coming off of Cherry alone because of the dangerous exit up to 82. Now again, if we have more coming in from the new neighborhood, as well as traffic from coming in from construction and everything, it's just going to be really, really too dangerous. And we really would not like to have it that way. If they could go out to 82 straight like the map shows, it would be the perfect way to go. Stay out of our neighborhood, cut down the traffic. That's my point. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe I saw another hand. Yes, all the way in the back of the room. Oh. I got you next.
Hello, my name is Dominic Shekatano, resident of Fishkill since '57, since I was just a kid. My wife and I bought our home on Mountain View Road in 1987. And as I stated at a previous meeting, entering and exiting parking lots from across a Mountain View Road makes that intersection very difficult. Some 15 years ago, in and around that time, I was taking my daughter driving. It was a Sunday morning, and we came across an accident right at the end of our road, and I believe his name was Mr. Chambers. Had gotten killed right there. Left quite an impact on my daughter. She was pretty horrified at the sight. I'm sure somewhere in the police records you'll find that situation. My own dog got hit and killed right there because of the speed of the cars coming back and forth. The fellow that spoke for the project, had been on Mountain View Road. Well, we're on Mountain View Road every day, multiple times a day. And we're there at critical times of the day, in the morning, in the afternoon, when the traffic is heaviest. Sometimes you get people breaking the law. I know the speed limit's 40, 45, but sometimes cars come up 50, 55 miles an hour. Not uncommon for that to happen. People are in a rush, and, we all need to get to go where we want to go, and, traffic's going to increase as time goes on. That's just the way Fishkill's been over the last 30, 40 years, as we've seen the growth in the area. So it's only going to get worse. I don't believe that funneling more vehicles through Mountain View Road onto 82 is necessary. The proposed subdivision, which is, the address is Route 82. It's not Mountain View Road. If I were to purchase that property to want to do the same project, my access would be Route 82. I wouldn't have the option of cutting out onto Mountain View Road, nor would even consider it. I've got a 60-foot entrance right onto Route 82. Perfectly fine for construction vehicles, perfectly fine for the residents that live there and or emergency vehicles that need to get in and out quickly. So this subdivision has got access out to Route 82, and I believe that 60-foot access to Route 82 should be the only one considered here. I don't believe it's necessary to come out onto Mountain View Road and disturb the residents that live there. We have people going up and down the road to go to Florina's for pizza, or to go over to Margaritas. There's also a driveway right there. That's an access for a residential property in the back. So it's a busy spot, a real busy spot. Turning out onto Route 82, on the left, the hill, it's a blind hill. Cherry Lane is definitely dangerous. Nobody really goes out Cherry Lane that I know of. Everybody comes out on N82. So, like I said, I don't know how often he's been in and out on 82 from Mountain View Road, but we do it on a daily basis, and many of us multiple times a day. Well, I'm also concerned not only for the residents, but for people who come to visit us, our families and friends, who are not really familiar. So, not really familiar with the access to there. So, it's just going to make a dangerous, a bad situation more dangerous. Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you. I believe, yes, all the way in the back.
Hello, my name is Ryan Smith. I live on 57 Cherry Lane. From everything I hear tonight, nobody's actually against building the houses. We all get it. It's his property. It's his right to do what he wants. If you look at the geo map, if this was developed years ago, there would have been access from 82 years ago. It's plain as simple, anybody that looks at it. A lot of people also aren't mentioning, I live on Cherry Lane, a lot of people that live back behind Mountain View, nobody exits Cherry Lane, but everybody comes in on it and flies down the street and then goes into the back of the neighborhood. You can't stop progress, but allowing this is a setback to the neighborhood. If you put access out onto 82, everybody from the back will now go out that road onto 82 where it's safer for everybody to pull out. It just makes more sense. If you live there, if you drove through the neighborhood, he can show you all the pictures and diagrams you want. You would walk there and just go, this makes sense. It was done for a reason. They don't put a 60-foot easement in 40, 60, 80 years ago if it wasn't designed for that. And to me, I've looked at this piece of property before I even knew it was for sale. It was never even a thought in my mind that if you bought that to put a road over here, it was always 82. And I don't understand why the DOT would turn it down, because it would make the whole community safer. It's not his responsibility, but you have a duty when you're developing to make an area nicer, and it doesn't make the community nicer. It's a detriment to the community, in my opinion. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I believe I saw another hand. Yes, you, sir.
How you doing? My name is Faraz Abbasi. I live on 70 Mountain View Road. I just moved to the neighborhood a year ago, and one of the main reasons I moved over there is because of it's quiet, there's no heavy traffic. I have an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. They run around in the front of the house. I'm not worried about them. I believe that they add this road, it's just going to cause more traffic. School buses are there every morning during school time. I see at least 3 buses a day on that corner on Penny and Mountain View. So between that and, the additional vehicles coming and going, and I really don't see that extra road making that more convenient for, the people, the extra houses that they're looking to build there. It's literally half a block away from Mountain View Road now, so the additional road, I really don't see why it would make any sense. And one other concern is the wells. I'm worried that if we build those houses and more wells, that we're going to have water issues, and that's a big concern as well. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who? Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is John Peck. I live on 120 Mountain View Road. I only say my age is 24 for the relevancy. I have grew up on this road, and as the years have been passing, the traffic has increased due to population moving. But what I really want to highlight is my time spent on the roads as a kid. As it's mentioned, the road conditions aren't the best, and having more equipment come through this area, as well as more houses. I mean, there's, I believe, 5 parcels that's mapped out, which is all right, but the main issue is there's going to be at least 2 cars. If there's 2 residents in each house, there's going to be at least 2 cars because of just how prevalent the car use is. That's going to add to numerous traffic. And with the amount of joggers, actually, there's an incredible amount of joggers, to be quite honest with you. I see at least 3 people jogging in twice a day throughout the neighborhood. Very active, people trying to ride their bikes, and I'm worried about those that have spoken already and their children, because it was very quiet for my time, but it's definitely not anymore. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I saw one straight behind the podium here.
Good evening. My name is Janine Krause, and I live at 109 Mountain View Road. I've been a resident there for approximately 30 years. One of the things that if it's been mentioned this evening, I sort of feel it was glossed over, is yes, 5 houses or even 10 cars doesn't necessarily bespeak a major catastrophe, but guess what? That's not what's happening these days. In the days of post-COVID or COVID, however you want to look at it, we now have every kind of delivery vehicle showing up on a regular basis. For God's sakes, I see every single day a UPS truck, an Amazon truck at least once, and a FedEx truck. And I'm in the back of the development. I'm one of those people that are all the way in the back. okay, and they're making it all the way down there. So what you're having is you're not only having the increase of maybe 10 cars, probably more if they have kids. You're having a massive increase in all of this delivery and transportation going on there. So it's a problem. Out on 82, approximately 5 days ago, I came close to getting rear-ended for exactly the issues that you're hearing here tonight, because people are speeding and they're not watching when the person in front of them happens to be slowing down to make that turn. Did I get hit? No, because I made the turn pretty darn quickly. But it happens. Okay, I've been head-on in that development because guess what? That development gets a lot of traffic. All right, there's problems here. So, you know, you're hearing people talk about this. There is a way for them to get out successfully. It was pre-planned. And, you know, I'm sorry, they're going through that lot for one reason. Okay? It serves the owner. Okay? And it's accessible. This was already pre-planned for an access off of 82. Why are we circumventing that? What is the purpose of circumventing the 82 entrance? So DOT, I would really like to see it. There's an old lady that lives down there. You know what? She steps into traffic now. She doesn't step out because she's like 86 years old. She steps into it. Okay? There's children on bikes down there, little kids now. It used to be an older development like my age, not anymore. And it's growing because we're getting all these folks coming up because they want a better life and they like Fishkill. But this isn't helping. So, you know, after almost 30 years back there and seeing the changes, I'm asking you guys to really consider what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and why is this even getting to this point when we've got an access on 82? Who benefits from this and why? And why isn't this coming out this way? It's already pre-done. Look at the map. Thank you.
Thank you. Show of hands, anybody else who wishes to speak? Yes, there's two in that direction. I'll take the one closer to me. Oh, we got it. Okay. We'll get to everybody.
My name is Constance Wynant. I live at 61 Cherry Lane with my husband Kevin. Before I read what I wrote, I would really like you to consider that all of these people here came tonight from our nice little neighborhood because they're concerned. And though we may be repeating ourselves over and over and over, I really hope you're listening to the repeating that we're saying, because we are really upset. We're all good people, we're all hardworking people, and we want our voices to be heard. I've lived at 61 Cherry Lane for 25 years. The neighborhood has changed in dynamics over that time. When we first moved in there, we're just a few young families and mostly older homeowners. Over time, due to relocation, people passing and moving, we now are a bustling neighborhood of families. With this comes bike riding, walkers, joggers, motorcycles, lots of dog walking, etc. As we are a closed neighborhood, the traffic consists of homeowners and visitors within our own neighborhood. This is one of the main reasons why people bought in the neighborhood. With Johnson Trails being developed, the homes do not change this for us. We welcome new homes as our Southern Dutchess community is a great place to live. However, the proposed access to this new community does affect us. Creating a new road to access these homes off of Mountain View Road changes the dynamics of our neighborhood and access to our neighborhood in many ways. By routing these new residents into our community, it increases car traffic, service vehicle traffic, utility vehicle traffic, visitor traffic, construction vehicles, emergency vehicles, delivery vehicles, etc. The land being used to build the new five new homes in Johnson's Trails was created with clear property access to Route 82. Anyone else who purchased this property would clearly only have access to this property via this 59-foot wide strip of land directly off of Route 82. The sheer coincidence that the purchaser of this property also owns lands adjacent to this should not allow an access road to be built. Anyone else would clearly have to use the road provided by the lot itself. And by using the provided road on the property, these new residents quickly and directly get out onto Route 82, which is where they need to go. And they are dealing with an opposing road that at least has a stop sign. Lake Road has a stop sign. Coming out of Mountain View, is truly a shit show. There are cars coming from every which direction from the two plazas. We on Mountain View Road deal with two plazas and cars coming from every direction. As more people move into the area, it is getting more and more difficult to turn out of the neighborhood. Across the street, the plazas are open landscape. Cars pull in and out from every which direction. If that weren't bad enough, making a left requires managing the driveways across the street, the traffic coming from Hopewell on Route 82, and a blind incline on the left. Better than Cherry Lane, but still a crummy incline. Many times, the cars coming from Hopewell on Route 82 refuse to wait while the car in front of them is trying to turn into our neighborhood. They go around them, in front of them, and create an unsafe situation, especially because there's a telephone pole there. Adding another 20 or so cars needing to leave or enter the neighborhood exponentially increases this danger. Making a left is painful as it is. Almost every person in our neighborhood has an accident experience they could share. Adding another intersection point on Mountain View Road in a very short span, there's Cherry Lane, Ackland Place, and this proposed new road would create a driving hazard. Our modest neighborhood is what it is, and we all bought there for that reason. We do not protest the building of the homes. It is purely the access to them that we do not want from our neighborhood. I really hope that you listen to us. Thank you.
Thank you. I saw, yes, right there.
How you doing? My name is Edward Gonzalez from 7 Ackland Lane. Basically,
I'm sorry, could you just, your name again?
Yeah, Henry Gonzalez from 7 Ackland Lane. Yeah, I just recently moved here from the city. But one of the things was the danger that, is in the city, as far as, traffic and, certain things that happen with vehicles, bicycle and everything. And, so it's very concerning, especially when I have children that I'm considering, have to worry about now as we came in there, beautiful community, nice and quiet. And for this proposed access road, it just doesn't make sense. I know I don't want to sound like everybody else in here, but, it's something that we really feel we just need to be heard. And, I'm pretty sure there are more things to come. So that's all I just wanted to say.
Thank you. Felix? Yes.
Yep. Thank you.
Tim Pagano, 36 Mountain View Road. I'm going to expand some on the groundwater comments. As mentioned, many of the older homes in the area of the proposed development have relatively shallow wells. The groundwater is not an unlimited supply, so adding additional homes, each which requires a well, increases the possibility that older, shallower wells will go dry. The wells for the new homes are most likely to be drilled deeper than the older existing wells, so if water levels drop, the older existing wells will go dry first. Drilling the new wells deeper does not solve the problem because there's an interconnection between the shallow and deep portions of the aquifer. Right now, we do not know what is the tipping point that would result in the older, shallower wells going dry. So just saying that it's only 5 more wells is not sufficient. The occurrence of extended dry periods, like what we are currently experiencing, needs to be factored in because it only accelerates the groundwater level drop. The applicant should provide data to show that the additional groundwater withdrawal from the new wells for the new homes will not result in groundwater levels dropping to a point where the older shallow wells will go dry in the future. Also, I watched the playback on the previous public hearing for this application, and I believe one of the commenters mentioned that the proposed new road that's going to connect to Mountain View Road was close to an existing well. If this is the case, this could become a problem because salting of roads in the winter could result in salt contamination of this well. Especially if it is a shallow well, it will be more vulnerable to salt contamination.
Thank you. Yes, I see your hand in the back.
Hi, my name is Megan Bliss. I live at 51 Ward Place. It's the back of the neighborhood to the right. When I pull out of my driveway, I'm the first house on Ward Place. I have to worry about who's coming at me from Mountain View. And then immediately I have to worry about who's coming at us from Cherry. And then we have Ackland. And if we put another road between Cherry and Ackland, it's like you're zigzagging in the neighborhood looking at different cars. Then you get to the end of 82, and again, like everyone's saying, the traffic is just crazy. So I think, you know, for us in the neighborhood, we already have to worry about, you know, all the different cars coming and stuff, and adding another road won't be helpful for us. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hello, my name is Dawn Peck. We own 2 properties on Mountain View. It actually turns into Maris Boulevard. My point to this is we moved here from Westchester to have a nice, quiet neighborhood. I have a new grandchild. We have all kinds of people walking around the area. To me, it's a big safety hazard. I feel as if there's no reason for this to be happening, have all these people in this whole neighborhood suffer for 5 houses that are to be put up. I just think it's ridiculous. The safety, again, with the safety issue of the plaza across the way, there actually is a blind corner when you're coming from Hopewell into Fishkill that's already has a traffic hazard that's going to cause more accidents. I just wanted to be heard. I wanted to let you know that I think that this is a huge impact on my community. We just don't want this. There's just no reason for it when there's already an access road from 82. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hello, my name is Pedro Ramos. I'm the new owner of 54 Cherry Lane. One of the things that when we moved in, we saw that the neighborhood was very quiet. We enjoyed it. Not a lot of traffic in Cherry Lane. If a new road is built, I'm afraid that Cherry Lane is going to be a new exit point. And I've gone out through there. I did it once, never did it again. It is hard to get out from there. And I also have a 5-year-old who plays outside. So that's another thing I have to worry about. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others who wish to speak?
Yep,
Yeah.
yes.
I can't see you, but yeah.
Good evening. John Hoopy. I'm at 109 Mountain View Road. I did submit a letter, so I'm not going to, be redundant here. But one of the things that was sort of glossed over is the situation with the traffic and passing by this proposed new access road, only passing by 3 houses, and I think that that's been clarified that it's not 3 houses, it's 8 or 9 houses. Where I live, I'm actually the second to last house on Mountain View Road, and there's, I don't know, give or take, roughly 80 homes in Mountain View Road, with Mountain View Road to Route 82 essentially being the only access and egress point onto Mountain View Road. So you got all the traffic, as has been mentioned by just about everybody that's been up here, running out Mountain View Road. So these additional houses, again, my understanding is they're going to be fairly large homes, probably 2, 3, 4 cars, along with all of the additional traffic that's already been mentioned with deliveries and services and maintenance and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Given that, again, to reiterate the point that this property already has an existing access onto Route 82. It can be a self-contained community, doesn't have to impact Mountain View Road. Mountain View Road doesn't have to impact the Johnson Trails community,
and, you know, everybody can basically have a status quo situation where we're not impacting Mountain View Road, and the new community will have their own access and egress point onto Route 82, which quite frankly would actually be a better situation for those folks from a, you know, sight distance and so forth than coming out onto Mountain View Road. So again, if it wasn't for the fact that the applicant, you know, had existing property that they were willing to, you know, have this road come through, if it was anybody else, that certainly wouldn't even be a consideration, and the only consideration would be the existing access onto Route 82 directly from that parcel. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who wishes to speak? Oh, yes, I see a hand all the way in the back corner.
Kenya Gadsden, taxpayer in Fishkill. I just wanted to ask if we've looked into the flood zone issues in this particular area. Are we following the new rules for the aquifer protections? And then what seems to be, I'm just following this newly, so if I'm speaking out of turn, I stand to be corrected, is that a lot of developers hold on to property and then they develop later, which is their right. But then at the time, the initial time, whatever is done is approved at that particular moment. And so then when it comes time to like develop more, it seems as if the project is kind of pushed through. I think there are several issues that the residents that came in a very large group, I'm actually proud of them, are expressing, and I think that safety is like the #1 issue here, looking at those accidents. So I think that there should be the DOT, it should be the state, it should be Fishkill PD. They should obtain all of the motor vehicle accidents that have occurred in those areas to try to understand what the residents are experiencing. Although it seems as if the quality of life of those people are going to be affected, I think that sometimes that's not considered. And so the quality of life should say if there's going to be a major impact on the people that live there, there should be some standard placed on that or some weight in their direction. And so hopefully the builder can actually work with the people that live there, because I believe that they all stand united. And I think that'll be a disappointing situation to put something in a community where the people there are really saying that they're against it, and they're given a substantial amount of reasons. And so I'm adding to that, you know, safety with the car accidents and just the quality of life of those people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, no, you already came up, right? You already spoke, right? Sure. Yeah. Anybody else who wishes to speak? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands, but while we do that, I'd like to ask the board if they have any comments or anything that they wish to bring up at this point.
Not right now. I mean, I'd like to see that letter, because I think that's going to be important.
So that's what I was going to do at this point. I was going to start the discussion of whether it makes sense to keep the public hearing open. And my understanding, and I'm going to turn to our consultants, my understanding is we didn't receive a submittal this past month. We requested some information, and I believe, if memory serves, I am getting old, that we requested some information, which I believe was the crux as to why we kept the hearing open, and we did not receive anything in the past month. And on top of the abundance of comments received tonight, including a letter that the applicant has indicated would be forthcoming from the DOT, I see no reason to close this public hearing. And so I'm going to kick that off, and I'm going to go to our consultants and see if, you know, what your thoughts are about that before I poll the board here.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I agree. It's as simple as that. I think you laid it out very well. Their board is not obliged to close the public hearing tonight, especially with more information coming on this critical issue that such concern.
Yeah, I agree. And at the last meeting, we heard a lot of the same types of comments about potential well impacts and the potential access to 82. So I think until we see the responses to that, then the board should probably just keep the hearing open so that we can see those responses.
Thoughts from the board?
I agree, Anthony. Mr. Chairman, I agree. I think we can leave the public hearing open. I know we're waiting for more additional information from the applicant. We didn't receive it yet, so that's why we kept this open this time anyway, right? So barring the figuring that we didn't get anything yet, we should just keep it open. And I encourage anybody who spoke, and I know you wanted to say something else, please write to us. Okay, we do read it, and I think it helps a lot when we see it in writing also, because I always take notes, but sometimes we miss stuff. So if you write it to us, it makes even more sense. So please write to us. We do get them. Okay.
And Bob, was the two things that I was concerned about last meeting are the two things I'm concerned about at this meeting.
Yes.
So until we resolve that.
Yeah, and understand, I kind of assumed that was the case tonight, being the fact that we just got this letter, and this is a crucial issue.
Yes.
Being the fact that we just received this letter yesterday. I didn't want to throw it into the mix at the last 11th hour, because that doesn't really work either. So this will be submitted as part of this, and again, I guess I offer two comments. Again, not a place to get argumentative and so forth, but this letter does indicate specifically that DOT denies access at that point. Again, you'll have it. Okay. Number two is I don't recall if there was actually a site visit scheduled for this. I don't know if the board is interested in that. The only reason I would state that is to really take a look at where this road is being proposed off of Mountain View and take a look at the proximity of how close it actually is to 82, just to get a feel for that. It doesn't really show on this map. It shows on the area map. We're prepared, based upon the comments really more tonight, is to provide some additional data regarding the intersection at 82 and Mountain View in terms of site distance information and things such as that. Just, again, I don't live there, and I understand the concerns of the public. And people do tend to drive a little quicker than they should, right? I think we all know that. But we'll provide some geometric information regarding site distance and things such as that, so at least the board has that information relative to that intersection and some numbers relative to what we anticipate the impact may be at all from these 5 lots on that intersection, just so you have that.
And I believe this will afford you an opportunity to provide a new submittal.
Right,
and also
right.
to provide some written comments to what was received at the last hearing and also tonight and also via email. So
Yeah,
it'd be nice to have all of that in addition to your memo so that when we, come back
Yeah.
in September that, we can,
The,
we'll have the information that we need.
The great thing about having things televised now is you can sit there and go through every single comment and respond. So we do have that from the first.
We can
hearing.
watch ourselves over and over.
It's going to be a 10-page response, but we'll have that for you. And again, a lot of these issues overlap and are common between or the public, but we'll have that for you.
I think that'd be very helpful. Do we need to make a motion to keep the hearing open?
Yes, sir.
So I will entertain a motion to keep the public hearing open for Johnson Trails 5-lot subdivision and to continue it at the September 8th,
I so move.
2022 meeting. Fred moved it. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ravi, second. Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries 7-0. So I believe that's everything we need to do tonight. This is not on the agenda again tonight for project review.
Right,
So
right,
is there anything else?
That's it.
All right. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, thanks, folks.
Thank you.
I'll give the room is, yeah, the room is, for those watching at home, the room is clearing. We're going to give a couple of seconds here.
They should have been told to request to
questions.
Maybe we should tell them to walk out and down.
Should we just, we'll stop for 5 minutes. We'll continue again at 8:10.
Oh, you're stopping?
I don't do the, they said they have a coffee there. I put it over here. I don't think that.
Yes.
The next item on our agenda tonight is a new submittal, 589 New York State Route 52 and 557 New York State Route 52, lot line realignment. A note, the agenda incorrectly identified the first lot as 559 New York State Route 52. It is in fact 589 New York State Route 52. And from what I can tell, it is properly identified on all the documentation provided to us by the applicant. It was just a typo in the agenda, so we apologize for that. The applicant seeks to realign the lot line between Lot 1, consisting of 1.105 acres, located at 589 New York State Route 52, and Lot 2 identified, I'm not going to read the tax map number, but 6.66 acres, located at 557 New York State Route 52. The purpose of the lot line realignment is to correct an encroachment that exists on Lot 1. The current owner of Lot 2 proposes to convey 0.1 acres to the applicant and owner of Lot 1. This lot line realignment shall result in Lot 1 becoming 1.119 acres and Lot 2 becoming 5.556 acres. The parcels are in the R15 zoning district. The board will allow informal comments after the discussion of this application. Lot line realignment is submitted pursuant to 13246 and 13247 of the Town of Fishkill Code and has been referred to the Town Planning Board Attorney and Town Planning Board Engineer for review and comment. At this time, I'll ask the applicant's representative, please come to the podium, identify yourself for the record, and provide a brief explanation of the application for our board.
Good evening, members of the town board. I'm Rajendra Manava. I'm the applicant. I live in 589 Route 52 here in Beacon. Actually, I was used to live in the city. I came here about five and a half years back. I had a job here, and so I looked about all the houses. I really loved this area. I found this house, and I have been living there since then. And it's my first house that I bought here. I was really excited, and at that time, when I bought the house, that area was all wooded, but I asked the builder, who is the Midwestern Development, who built all those houses there, and he was right in the basketball court, the playground that was there at that time. I asked him while he was standing there, I asked him, where is my property ending? He said, all the way back there, in the back, so it's all the way. So I went and saw there were property markers and everything there, and it perfectly fit. So in that excitement, I spent all my life savings at that time, almost $28,000. I built it. The playground, I thought my kid was just born at that time, so he's 6 years now. So and the builder actually was there when I built it. He came at that time, and I showed him how is it. He said it's great. I think your son should be in the basketball NBA team. That's why he just laughed, and he didn't even mention about that lot being the Healy's property. So and finally, after 5 years, I got a notice, an official notice from Albany that that is the property of Healy's and that I encroached. So I called the Healy's, I arranged them, I spoke with them, and I paid what all they need for that land. I bought the land, and I called the new surveyor, which he did the survey, and I thought of including that in my land, so I don't want to be any more illegal, because at that time I was excited, I bought it, and I didn't even know, I trusted the builder saying that, and because it matched perfectly, I spent all the money, and that's what it ended. So immediately after I got the notice, I started this work, and this is where I am. And please consider my application and do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Before I ask our consultants and the board for their input, I spoke with John Cantor before this meeting, and he did point out to me that he believes this application should be processed under the recently enacted expedited procedures for lot line adjustments. He believes the board can specifically waive a public hearing upon recommendation of our consultants and could authorize whatever seeker documents may be required at the September meeting along with a draft resolution of approval. And according to the seeker handbook, lot line adjustments and variances are described as type 2 actions. So I was hoping to get Dominic and John's input, and I'd also like to get Dominic's input on the actions this board should consider this evening. But that was...
All of that was correct, and so to move things quite along, if I may, is I would agree that this is a type 2 action under seeker. This is also a lot line adjustment, so it's not technically a subdivision and is entitled to an expedited review. The actions for the board to consider taking tonight would be the waiver of the public hearing and receipt of any additional technical comments that you have from either the board members or from Mr. Bodendorf. And based on that, you can decide whether or not it would be appropriate to consider a draft resolution.
So, I believe, John, you had a memo for this.
Yeah, did I hear you correctly that you, or your builder put the basketball court in?
No, it's not my builder. So at that time, I hired some people, the blacktop guys and the fencing guy. And
Okay, but was there something there before the basketball court?
No, it's just the woods.
It was a wooded area, okay.
Yeah.
Because if, per GIS mapping, it appears that it was built in the middle of a federal wetland. I don't know if there's any recourse because it was done years ago, and it appears that it was done without any permits, so I think we should just get some clarification on that. Debbie believes that the town did not issue any permits for it, but
I can check that with Joel.
yeah, I think we should just get some clarification on that for the record.
Pardon me, and also I would like to mention that in the last 5 years I lived there, there was no flooding. It was perfect. So.
Yeah, the floodplain, it does appear that it's within a floodplain area as well, but something flat like that wouldn't necessarily be an issue in terms of obtaining a permit if one was pursued. The wetland one, I'm not sure.
They first, the builder who built the blacktop, he put a big load of the mud, and then he put so it is elevated a lot, and there's no problem with flooding all these years.
Okay.
And
anyways, we should just get some clarification on that, but I still agree with the whole premise of this meeting the requirements of a expedited review process.
Okay, does anybody from the board have any comments or thoughts on this application? Do we agree with the thought process behind the type 2 action and waiving the hearing and going to the resolution?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I definitely agree it's a type 2 action. Waiving the public hearing makes sense. I don't think we'll have much public comment on this. But definitely need to look at what Mr. Borndorf said about the wetland. So, but yeah, let's try to move this along if we can. This seems like one of those ones that we could, as opposed to some of the other ones. So if we can move it along,
So
it'd be great.
there's a few motions that we need to make. The first one is to classify this as a type 2 action pursuant to seeker. So would that be correct if I say I entertain a motion to classify, let me find the name of the formal name, 589 New York State Route 52 and 557 New York State Route 52 lot line realignment as a type 2 action.
So moved.
Felix moves it. Fred seconds. Discussion?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. So the second motion we would need to make, would we have to officially waive the hearing? Would that be the the second motion there?
Yes. Yes, sir.
So I will entertain a motion to waive the public hearing for 589 New York State Route 52 and 557 New York State Route 52 lot line realignment.
So moved.
Felix moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
Jody seconds. Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. And I believe the third motion would be to authorize the consultants to prepare the, what would we call the resolution of?
Of approval, conditional approval.
All right, so do I have a motion to have our consultants draft a resolution of conditional approval for 589 New York State Route 52 and 557 New York State Route 52 lot line realignment?
So moved.
Fred moves it. Do I have a second?
Second.
Bob seconds. Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
One additional item in light of, the issue raised by Mr. Bodendorf, which is a valid issue as to whether or not there was a wetlands permit that was required for the basketball court, and the likely fact that there probably wasn't at least a local wetlands permit that was obtained or a federal wetlands permit. In any event, the board may want to authorize, and I'm sorry to volunteer you for this, John, but to authorize John to communicate with the building inspector to see, whether or not one's going to be required. This is technically an enforcement issue, and the planning board is not, in my opinion, an enforcement board. I mean, we can flag as an issue that the building inspector may want to follow up on, but I think it'll be within the building inspector's purview to decide whether or not any action is warranted here in connection with that.
Okay. Any discussion about that?
No, I was actually going to ask what we should do about that, so you just answered.
So I will entertain a motion to allow John Bodendorf of CPL to communicate with our town building inspector regarding this application for 589 New York State Route 52 and 557 New York State Route 52 lot line realignment.
And pardon me, right from the beginning, I also was dealing with Mr. Ozzy, so he knows everything. He came there and he checked everything. So.
Okay, yeah, understood. I think this will have to go
Okay,
through.
fair enough.
Planning board separate, that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's good anyway.
Yeah.
But we do have a motion out there. Did I?
You put it out there, nobody made the motion, I'll make it.
What? So, do I have a second? Second. VJ seconds. Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. So I believe, Dominic,
Nothing further.
Okay.
Can I ask one question, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman? Do the drawings need to be revised for the next meeting, per Mr. Bodendorf's comments, or no? I just want to know what to expect, if I should be expecting a submission or not.
It will probably depend on what my...
Fine with Joel?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't know if you got on the microphone there on that, but the drawings may have to be updated as a result of the discussion between Mr. Bodendorf and our building inspector. I just want to make sure I got that on the microphone.
The technical comments are in connection with the wetlands primarily. I mean, so,
right.
And that'll be evaluated next month. We'll have the resolution ready, and we can either update it
And
or
it's
if...
just for consideration at that time.
Yeah,
so
if there are
if
additional
there's-
items,
Correct.
we could hold it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Board.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good luck.
We're up to our project reviews for this evening. Item number 3, Little V Farms LLC 2-lot subdivision. Board to review draft EAF Part 2, draft EAF Part 3, draft determination of significance, and draft resolution of preliminary and conditional final approval for subdivision. I say good evening.
Good evening.
And ask if there's anything you wish to bring to the board's attention before we go through the documents.
No, I do have some editorial comments on the draft resolution that I'd just as soon pass out, because I think it might help us streamline that process, if that's okay.
if you think it'd be easier to talk about them now, or we can,
No,
address them.
my intent was just to get the physical distribution of them out of the way so that we can jump into the EAF parts 2 and 3 and then the resolution, and then we can review these things. If that's okay with you guys.
Just leave it, pass it.
Thank you.
So I'm going to turn it over to John.
Yeah, this is a pretty simple one. I mean, there's no physical disturbance or construction of any kind proposed, so we didn't identify any item as a potential moderate or large impact. So if the board agrees with that, then you can adopt the Part 2 and 3 EAF.
Do I have any comments from the board? Does anybody believe that any of these items in the EAF Part 2 should be changed from what currently identified?
No, I agree.
Okay.
Okay, and then, again, following suit, because there is no physical disturbance or construction of any kind, we can skip right to the second page of the neg deck where the board makes the following findings supporting.
Should we make the motion on the EAF Part 2, Part 3 at this point, or do we?
You can do it all at once, or?
Okay. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion to accept the draft EAF Part 2 and draft EAF Part 3 for Lil V Farms LLC 2-lot subdivision as provided and discussed.
So moved.
Felix moves it. Here, Fred second. Discussion?
Yes.
Yep, I got it. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. So at this point, we're going to go through the determination of significance.
Yeah, and again, to save time, because there's no physical disturbance of land or construction of any kind, if you go right to page 2 of the draft neg deck, the board makes the following findings supporting and substantiating this determination. 1, there is no proposed physical disturbance to the site, and 2, the proposed action will not result in any impacts on geological features, flooding, or groundwater, air, agricultural, aesthetic, open spaces and recreation, and energy resources or transportation systems, human health, community plans, or community character. That is in line with what you accepted in the EAF. So if you agree, then you can vote on the draft neg deck.
Any discussion from the board?
No.
With that said, I'll entertain a motion to adopt a negative declaration notice of determination of non-significance for Little V Farm 2-lot subdivision, and to authorize the chair to sign.
So moved.
Felix moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
Bob seconds. Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 7-0. We'll move along to the resolution.
And in connection with that, I have read the handout that's been provided, and it's actually very helpful. There was, most of these are clerical errors. Some of them are due to my drafting, and so I have no objection to any of the changes that are proposed.
Okay, and those revisions were provided to the entire board as well as to Debbie, so.
Yes. I mean, unless the board has any concerns, my suggestion would be to authorize the adoption of the resolution as amended, as suggested by the applicant.
Is there a need to highlight any items, John, in the resolution? Usually we...
There's no specifics, special concern, and there's no specific, condition that would be out of the ordinary in connection with this particular project.
I would just say on page 2 of 5, there's in the second paragraph, there there's a boxed item with a question, what does this mean? We should probably clarify that rather than adopt as is.
Right.
Yes, there was a box around the term instant project.
Yeah, it's,
I've been dying to hear this.
It's a turn of phrase, it means this project, but it's a bit antiquated, so we can clarify it or remove it if you'd like.
What would be the suggested change, or just
this project?
This
Remove the
project.
instant.
Take out the word "the."
Debbie's got that, so.
Remove the word instant.
Yeah.
Just with the project.
It doesn't change anything in connection with the conditions of the
I just have
approval.
one comment on page 1, where we referred the application. It did not go to Dutchess County Planning. They have no purview over the subdivision.
Well, the agricultural data sheet did go to the Dutchess County Planning Department. And I did clarify that, later on, so.
Okay. All right. That's where they didn't want it, though.
Exactly,
Yeah.
but it was officially submitted and officially accepted by them.
Yeah. Once again, it's not going to change the overall
Correct.
effect of this. 150 years from now, someone will be reading this and say, my God.
Are there any additional comments from the board regarding the resolution and the
Just reading.
text changes? Maybe we should give the board members a quick second to take a look at those.
Should we be accepting this as amended?
That would be my recommendation.
We would add that in the motion, yes.
Make a motion as amended?
Yeah. I'm still looking.
Oh.
Thank you.
Are we ready to?
So, what do you mean by please confirm on the first page?
So there's a comment on the first page, please confirm?
Yes, and that was with regard to the reference to a coordinated review. And I honestly, I did not go back through the video to check to see whether or not it was, in fact, a coordinated review. My recollection, and I might be off, was that it may have been an uncoordinated review.
It was an uncoordinated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same one exists, I think, please confirm on page 3.
On page 3?
Yeah,
Page.
second paragraph.
Yeah, at the last.
You mentioned the second paragraph?
Yeah, that at the end, please.
Did you say page 2 or 3?
Page 3.
Page 3.
There is a two-line red at the end of this comment.
Yeah, I think that, again, my recollection was that the term waiver, the chairman wasn't that fond of the use of that term. We used it because that was the term used in the actual application, but I think he wanted to use use the term findings. But again, that's up to you. That's
My
up to the
recommendation
board.
would be that it would be a waiver.
Okay.
As written. And let's not snatch defeat from the
Right.
jaws of victory.
And then item number 3 here, you had a note here about requirement for us to affix our seals and signatures on the applicable drawings. You're asking to simplify the resolution?
Yeah, well, in essence, this sort of relays the reader to Mr. Bodendorf's memo, and in fact, Mr. Bodendorf's memo, really the only requirement in there was for us to affix our professional seals and signatures on that. So it eliminates some of the circuitousness of the action, but it's either way it works.
This is the way it's typically done. I mean, even if it's just a simple.
It would accomplish,
Yeah,
whether we stick with what we have or make the change, it accomplishes the
It
same
makes no
thing,
difference to
So
me.
we could just leave it. Okay. All right. Any other comments from the board? At this point, I will entertain a motion to adopt the resolution of preliminary and final subdivision approval for the Lands of Little V Farm LLC 2-lot subdivision, draft number 6, dated August 4th, 2022, as amended at tonight's meeting, and to authorize the chair to sign.
Okay, I now make the motion.
We got Fred
Yes.
moving it. We have a second.
Yeah.
Robbie?
Yeah.
Robbie seconds. Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Okay, I believe
Thank you very much.
that's everything.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
You too. Next item on our agenda is Walmart MFC Market Fulfillment Center expansion, amendment to site development plan. Board to review submission made by the applicant's representative on July 26, 2022. Draft EAF Part 2, Draft EAF Part 3, Draft Determination of Significance, and Draft Resolution of Preliminary and Conditional Final Approval, Amendment to Site Development Plan. Good evening.
Hello, Matthew D. Simone with Dewberry Engineers.
If you'd like to provide a brief update on what has been provided in the previous month?
Yes, so I understand the engineering comments have been addressed. I don't believe there's anything else. I think we had a memo, it was dated 7/27, indicating that all the comments are addressed. The last meeting, I believe there was an issue regarding the light pole height with the 20-foot maximum height. That has been revised in the drawings. And I think that was pretty much all the plans changes. I don't know if there are any other questions at this point or anything else.
I think at this point I'll just turn to John.
Yeah, no, he's correct. They have addressed all of our outstanding engineering concerns, so we have no further comments on the site plan set.
So we're ready to go through the EAF Part 2, Draft EAF Part 2 and Part 3?
Correct.
Okay, any discussion from the board before we move on? Okay, all right, John.
Okay, again, a relatively straightforward one here. Even though there is construction proposed, the area where they're doing the construction has all been previously disturbed. So we did not identify any item within the draft EAF as moderate or potential moderate to large impact. So if the board agrees with that, they can vote to accept the EAF, draft EAF.
Does the board have any comments on the EAF Part 2?
No, not as,
Okay, I'm not hearing any comments, so at this time, I will entertain a motion to accept the EAF Part 2 and Part 3 as discussed this evening for Walmart MFC Market Fulfillment Center expansion, amendment to site development plan, and to allow the chair to sign.
so moved.
Felix moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got VJ as a second. Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Okay, John, we'll move on to the draft determination of significance.
Okay, description of action, the applicant is seeking approval to build an approximately 28,000 square foot expansion and associated grading and parking for a new Walmart Market Fulfillment Center. Truck well for loading and unloading is also proposed. The site is located in the planned shopping center zoning district and is served by public water and sewer. Skipping over to page 2, the planning board makes the following findings supporting and substantiating this determination. The disturbance to the site is proposed to be located in areas that have been previously disturbed or is existing impervious surface. 2, the proposed action may result in an increase in noise during the construction period, but will return to current levels post-construction. And 3, the proposed action will not result in any impacts on geological features, flooding, or groundwater, air, agricultural, aesthetic, open spaces and recreation, and energy resources, or transportation systems, human health, community plans, or community character.
Okay, are there any comments from the board on the negative declaration?
No, we do not.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to adopt the negative declaration notice of determination of non-significance for Walmart MFC, Market Fulfillment Center expansion, amended site development plan, as read this evening, and to allow the chair to sign. Fred moved it. Have a second?
Second.
Bob seconds. Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Okay, John, we'll move on to the resolution.
That would be...
Oh, Dominic. I'm on autopilot.
No, that's quite all right. So we did prepare a draft resolution as requested by the board. It's a 7-page, single-spaced resolution that was sent to you last week as well as to the applicant. I can go through it if you like. There are a number of special conditions, unlike the prior resolution, which didn't have any special conditions.
Yeah, let's go through the items of note here.
Sure. So overall, that, after the initial recitals, that there are some special conditions here. The first one would be, and it's on page 3 of 7, that outside agency approvals are required, and that the applicant shall obtain all permits and approvals from all agencies having jurisdiction over the project and provide proof of same to the town of Fishkill. They include the Dutchess County Department of Health for the sanitary sewer and water line improvements, coverage under the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation Speedies general permit for stormwater discharges, and coordination with Dutchess County Transit on the relocation of the bus stop and the design of the new bus shelter. There's also a stormwater maintenance agreement is required. That's item number 2. Item number 3 is a performance bond will be required. Number 4 is a maintenance bond will be required. That's for the landscaping improvements. Number 5, an inspection fee will be required. There are final plan revisions that require the owner's consent note and the standard signature block for the planning board chairman. And then proof of compliance with all of these items, as well as any items that were set forth in the planning board's engineer's July 12th memorandum. Then thereafter that, there's a number of other standard conditions, including the fact that this is binding on the applicant and any successors and interests, the requirement that all fees are paid and escrow deposits are made, and that also the details of the plan regarding landscaping, screening, lighting, and architectural design and details must be constructed as shown on the plans. And any changes or modifications into those shall be reviewed by the planning board prior to the implementation of such changes.
So I think we have to jump back to the performance bond item, maintenance bond, and inspection fee.
Yes, I highlighted those, that those amounts have been left blank. That's correct.
So how would we go about arriving at a dollar amount for those?
We've asked the applicant to provide a bond estimate. It has not come in yet, so I'm not sure that the board has adopted resolutions without the numbers ahead of time, but I believe that has been the case. I'm not sure. No?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't believe so.
If that's the case, then perhaps the board could hold this over to next month and the estimates could be provided, and then the numbers could be put into the resolution at that time.
I believe that would be most appropriate. Does anybody on the board have a differing opinion on that? So I think we're unanimous in that we can revisit that next month once you have some dollar amounts for us to insert into the resolution.
Yeah, that's in progress, so it'll be next couple of days, and then...
And the submittal deadline, Debbie, just so for the record. Sorry, put you on
August 24th.
August 24th. So as long as you'd be able to meet that, we can revisit that revisit the resolution at the September meeting. Is there
Okay, yeah.
anything else you'd like to?
Nope.
Okay. I believe that's it for this item.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next item on our agenda is item number 5, Van Wyck Muse, amendment to site development plan. Board to review submission made by the applicant's representative on July 27th, 2022, and a draft resolution of preliminary and conditional final approval, amendment to site development plan, and I believe Ravi and VJ have both recused themselves on this application. So I will give you both a moment to step out of the room. Good evening.
Good evening. Oh, wait a second.
So we did receive a submittal from you on July 27th, 2022. We got a cover letter, updated concept plan for the entrance at Merritt Boulevard, and an updated site plan set.
That's well, let me just start from the beginning. Just for the record, David Cooper, partner with the law firm Mazarin and Steinmetz, here representing Toll Brothers, the applicant in this application for amended site plan approval. With me is Richard Williams from Insight Engineering, as well as Greg Otis from Toll Brothers. We did submit a one-page revised plan in response to the request for a 13-foot wide driveway. Other than that, everything else is the same. That was pursuant to the last comment. I think your board then received comments back from CPL indicating that there are no further comments. We are here tonight, Mr. Chairman, asking that the board vote on the draft resolution of approval that's before it. Just from a chronological perspective, your board adopted a negative declaration at the last meeting, and now have before you the final plan. So we have a couple of comments on the resolution. I know we're not supposed to provide you with comments until the meeting, so we want to go through it tonight. But other than that, we'd ask that the board vote on the resolution.
Okay, so I guess I'll first turn to John on the updated entrance plan. Is there?
Yeah, we didn't have any further comments on the updated entrance plan. The only remaining comments in our latest memo is providing final approval from the health department and structural calcs for the proposed retaining walls. And that's
and
it.
I presume we can get into that when we get to the resolution. I presume Dominic has referenced that, and we can make sure that letter containing those comments is referenced. Sure.
Yep.
Okay, any comments from the board before we go through the resolution? Okay, I'm not hearing any, so Dominic, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. We did prepare a resolution distributed to the board and to the applicant last week. It's an 8-page resolution. There are a number of references in the very beginning of the resolution that obviously sets forth the history of the project and the fact that this is an amended approval. I want to focus, if I may, on the waivers that are included as part of the resolution. It starts on page 2, where the planning board makes a number of findings. Finding A is in connection with the overall layout of the project. Let's see, waiver B, section B rather, would be that the amendment, excuse me, it's been a long day already. The application for amended site development plan approval met the requirements for referral to the Dutchess County Department of Planning, and the referral was made, and the Department of Planning provided its comments to the board on January 4th. Then the stormwater plan for the project has been reviewed and meets the requirements of the Town Code Chapter 130. That the application is not subject to the Town of Fishkill Code Section 15079 regarding aquifer protection overlay. Then the letter E would be that this application is not subject to the requirements for a certificate of appropriateness pursuant to Town of Fishkill Code Section 150-137 regarding historic structures and site regulation, as amended by the Town of Fishkill Town Board. That the Planning Board hereby waives the requirement for 67 visitor parking spaces, and the applicant is authorized to maintain a total of 47 visitor parking spaces. And that lastly, that the Planning Board does hereby waive the requirement for a public hearing on the proposed amended site development plan, the final amended site development plan pursuant to 150-97C of the Town of Fishkill Code. But my understanding is that there may be additional waivers that the applicant has identified now that they would like to include in the resolution.
No, it was identified in the application. I think it's just missing from the resolution. The building separation requirement. So what's required is 50. What has always been proposed was 31. And we initially, in our application, put in a request for the waiver under 157-73-7. So I think that was just missing in the, probably, I guess, G, E, F, G, H there.
Okay. So that would be that the Planning Board does hereby waive the requirement for building separation of 50 feet.
50 feet, right. And authorizes the applicant to maintain a building separation of 31 feet.
So you're asking for 31 feet?
That's correct. That's always been the, yeah. Yeah.
Correct.
That was the spacing that was...
That was, the negative declaration was based on that. The application was based on, the public hearing was based on that, yeah.
So that can be added in if it's all right with the board. And then we go on to the special conditions. There are a number. The first one would be that the approval of the pool deck improvements is subject to HOA approval, as may be required by the HOA's governing documents. There are a number of outside agency approvals that are also required, including per section A155 of the town code. Town road improvements are to be approved by the planning board, the town engineer, and the Town of Fishkill Highway Department. This applies for site access modifications at the intersection of Bennington Drive at Merritt Boulevard and associated improvements to Merritt Boulevard. There's also approval from the Dutchess County Department of Health for the sanitary sewer and water line improvements, and as well as coverage under the New York State DEC Speedy's general permit for stormwater discharges. A stormwater maintenance agreement is required for this project. The previous approval stormwater maintenance agreements were not required at that time, but they are now as a result of current requirements. Once again, we have a performance bond. The amount has been left blank.
So we submitted the, go ahead. I'm going to turn it over to Rich because he.
So Toll Brothers has provided a performance bond. They have their total site work estimated at $3,265,501.35. They separately broke out the landscaping fee at $287,325. And
we received a copy of the estimate, and the numbers appear to be more than reasonable for.
So for item number 4, let's take this, I just want to make sure we got it clear. So item number 4, performance bond, we're entering the amount of?
I mean, it would be more than the landscaping, to be quite honest, because item number 4 is performance bond for any of
so let me be clear. The entire estimate of the $3.265 million includes the full site work. Separately, we did also break out for the maintenance bond, the landscaping, which was $287,000. And then I believe that would be item 5, and then when we get to item 6, I believe your code gives the planning board discretion, but up to 7%.
And the only other item I would raise on the inspection fee is that Toll Brothers has already posted $29,500 in inspection fees, because remember, this is a amended approval, so.
I think, actually, it would be helpful, actually, if we just stick on one for
Oh,
right
okay.
now. Okay, and I appreciate that we have perhaps answers to all of these, but the first one, you know, and this came up in the Healy project as well, is, the question is like, what's the appropriate amount for a performance bond? This is a performance bond that's indicating the applicant is going to undertake and complete certain things. It's not, in my opinion, a performance bond to make sure that they build their entire project, because the town would never be in a position, nor should it be, to, if they stopped building their project, to go in and complete the residences on behalf of Toll Brothers. So that's not a scenario.
We'd appreciate it, but
you know,
yeah.
well, not if we pulled the bond, but you know, in connection with that, however, you know, there are certain improvements that have to be made, such as stormwater improvements, water line improvements, those things that the town does have an interest in making sure are completed satisfactorily, or if they're not completed, that if they're in the middle of construction and for whatever reason they stop, that there's funds available for the town to go in and make sure that the work can be closed off and that there's no issues there. So sticking with the performance bond, this one is highlighted. I defer to others as to what the appropriate amount would be for that.
This would also not include, it says not including building construction.
Right.
It would also not include, these are private roads?
The roads are private. I think the code says sidewalks, landscaping. I think actually it's cited in here, right? That's right out of the code. So the roads I don't think are included. So it's grading, erosion, sediment control, landscape, stormwater management, and sidewalks.
So let me try and help this out, because to your point, Mr. Chairman, these are private roads. The estimate that Toll Brothers prepared was comprehensive. It included erosion and sediment control, it included earthwork, retaining walls, sewers, stormwater, water, and roadways and sidewalks. Now, when I tend to think of performance bonds, and as it was just discussed by your attorney, you want to secure monies where that if something happened and Toll Brothers stopped construction, you have the ability to come in and stabilize the site. Because you're not building municipal infrastructure, but private infrastructure, the town should be less worried about having to complete that infrastructure, because really the only people that's affecting is Toll Brothers and the people that they would want to sell to. Looking at that, just maybe to help the board shape the $3.265 million, 113,000 was allocated towards erosion control. There was 292,000 for earthwork and grading. So to me, that's kind of a starting point for our discussion. You know, how much do you need to come in, shape the site, stabilize the site from an earthwork perspective, and then apply the proper erosion control?
So that would be $405,000, if I am adding correctly. Bear in mind, I was an English major, so I'm usually wrong.
Now, it's a private road, so the utilities, so to speak, the storm, water, you know, if those were stopped in mid-construction, yes, those would not be dedicated to the town, but would there need to be any monies to cap or stop wherever they were?
There was $5,000 allocated towards maintenance to the existing stormwater and conversion of the outlet structure. To me, that would be an appropriate thing to include, because those are the basins that are at the bottom of the hill, actually on either side of the entrance, or on the left, because I'm facing it to the entrance.
So then that would be 410,000.
So I know we're kind of doing this, my apprehension is we're doing this now at the meeting, and and not having John's concurrence on this. I know it's a big number, but.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, in the Healy project, we did not come up with the number.
Right.
They gave us like a number like you did, a big number, it was 2-point-something million, and then I think the town board made the decision. We did not make it.
They made the decision on the amount for
Right.
$350,000.
It was
Ultimately,
because
they
it
have
doesn't
to
make
anyway.
sense to bond
Yeah.
$3 million, because we're not going to do your project.
I mean, typically, that's how it works.
My confusion here is, what's the process now? Because last time, we threw the ball over to the town board. We did not make this decision.
I think we need to follow the same procedure as we did for Healy.
That's what I
and
think we need to do, because,
use that same language, which was something along the
Yes.
lines of, the amount shall be based on their performance bond estimate in an
Yes.
amount that is
Decided
acceptable
by the-
to the town
Yes.
board.
Yeah.
I think that makes more sense.
And leave it at that.
Because I don't think we're really equipped right here to come up with this number.
I mean, I don't think the numbers being presented are, I'm not saying,
No,
we're
no.
not saying they're inaccurate, but I think for
Oh,
us
no,
to
no,
be
I
kind of
don't-
fielding numbers at this point.
I don't disagree with what they're saying at all.
Yeah, and then I agree with your point.
We're comfortable with that approach of just, in the resolution saying a bond set by the town board.
Yes, I think that, because that's why we did it last time. We did not make the decision here.
Yeah.
So we would.
The way that it read there, and I just pulled it up if I may, that the applicant shall post with the building department a performance bond or other security to secure to the town the satisfactory installation of site improvements required by the site development plan approval, including but not limited to grading, erosion, and sediment controls, landscaping, stormwater management improvements, sidewalks, etc., but not including building construction. The amount of such bond is based on an estimate submitted by the applicant in the amount of, and then this was the amount of their bond, which was $3,385,000, reviewed by the planning board's engineer and approved by the town board. So it was kicked over to the town board. So one way to, if you, what's that?
The amount was correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
And they, which is the procedure actually that's spelled out in the town code as well. So my suggestion would be to use this language that we utilize there. We can do it based on the overall estimate amount that's been presented by Toll here.
Okay.
And just track that same process.
I agree, and that would address item number 4.
Correct, that's why I didn't want to
No,
skip over
I
to 4 or 5 or 6.
We're talking a lot of things in this room, I just, for the sake of myself and the public, quickly lose our spot here. So that was for item number 4 for the performance bond.
I'll take a screenshot.
Does the applicant have any concern, objection to that?
No, we're okay with that. I think that's the same approach for the maintenance bond as well.
I think we'll just, so we're just talking about the performance bond.
Okay, okay.
I want to make sure we work through this, and I apologize for taking this in bite-sized pieces, but I think it's necessary. So that was item number 4. We're board is good with that. The applicant's good with that. Okay, so we'll move on to the maintenance bond, item number 5.
If you would just give me one moment.
Not a problem.
He's trying to help me out.
No, I want to make sure we get this
Thank you.
right. This is serious stuff here.
Yeah, okay. So, item number 5 is maintenance bond.
Correct.
And this is posted for, and the amount is left blank, and it's for a period of 1 year post-issuance of the certificate of occupancy to ensure that the landscaping improvements and plantings installed are maintained in a vigorous growing condition or otherwise replaced with new plants as appropriate. So the question here would be what would be the appropriate amount of the maintenance bond?
And I think in the past, what we've done is taken the applicant's total landscaping estimate and used that as the number.
And has one been provided?
Yes. $287,325.
And that's been reviewed, John, and that's,
Yeah, it's reasonable, in my opinion.
So that's what we're going to do in the future, too, correct?
That's for the maintenance bond.
For the maintenance one.
For the just for the
landscaping and plantings. Does anybody have any on the board have any comments or questions about that? Applicant,
Sorry. No, we're okay. I'm sorry, we're okay with that amount.
All right, so
Okay.
we're good there, number 5.
And then you, correct me if I'm wrong, but you had some information regarding the inspection fee.
I jumped up on that one, yes.
You
I
did. But now's your
Now's my
time.
chance.
Please shine.
So Toll Brothers did post a $29,500 inspection fee originally for the whole project. So I know that the code is up to 7%, but whatever the planning board decides in terms of percentage, we'd ask that 29.5 be counted towards it.
Do you still have the healing one up? Did we put a number in for that?
Yes. I believe we did.
Because 7% of the total performance bond estimate is quite a large number.
Right. It's probably more than the...
Yeah, so the site inspection fee for the Healy project was $15,000.
Right, and if you think about it, the 29.5 that was set for the same...
The 29.5 is still there.
I would like to, I'm sure they paid it, but I'd like to confirm that, otherwise.
I think that's more than a reasonable number if we use that, and if it's already there, they're good. If not, they just...
So can we reword this in a...
We would, yeah, we've done that in other resolutions for Toll Brothers where we put it in as a whereas they paid, but I'll leave that up to Dominic as to the wording.
Yeah.
I will have the date and everything as soon as I can locate it.
So what would 6 then?
Well, I think, it perhaps should be dealt with here because I think it's an either-or situation.
Right, to the extent not already paid?
Correct. To the extent if not already paid, then the applicant shall remit a site inspection fee as required. We just need to insert an amount. So the amount will be 29,000, is that?
29.5 sounds
29. Yeah.
Perfectly.
If it wasn't paid already.
Correct.
Yeah.
Any comments or questions from the board on that inspection fee?
So that would apply only if they haven't paid it already.
Correct.
If not paid already.
Any comments from the board?
Is there a time frame on that?
They have to do it prior to receiving the signed site plan. So they couldn't start construction without confirming it or paying it.
Okay.
And then the rest of the conditions are standard that we've been including with every project.
So the only questions we have relate to number 14 regarding the landscaping. So the condition is that landscaping and screening indicated on the approved site plan has to be planted before a C of O, which makes sense. The only issue here is that because there are a series of buildings, there'll be a series of C of Os issued, and you're probably not going to want to put landscaping in areas where the buildings haven't been built yet. So what we're asked to do is to start the sentence on 14, for each building, comma, all landscaping and screening indicated on the approved site plan within the vicinity of said building shall be installed prior to the issuance of a C of O.
I have no objection to that.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Any comments from the board?
That's reasonable.
Okay.
And then last two, the last paragraph at the end of all the conditions, which makes sense and says when these conditions have to be complied with, indicate before the planning board chairman signs, which makes sense. There's just one that we'd ask about because the condition number 1 actually relates to the HOA. The HOA has to vote in order to approve the expansion of the pool deck. We assume they're going to vote yes, based on the comments, but it does have to happen. That may not occur before the chairman's signature, so we're just asking that one not be required as part of that.
That's reasonable. I mean, it doesn't happen if the HOA doesn't approve it. So,
So that paragraph in bold at the bottom of page 6 would then say numbered 2 through 9 and 12.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
And then the only other, although I think oh no, never mind, we did just cover that. And then the last thing is just two edits on page 1 with respect to the description of the project. In the large 1, 2, 3, the fourth bullet point, it indicates at the bottom that 15 acres will be impervious, but that the number is actually 7 acres. It's probably just a typo. And then the next sentence is, with the remaining, it says 0.4 acres, but it's actually 8.4 acres of pervious area, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
A question for Dominic, the resolution of preliminary and final amended, would we say conditional final? Do we need to, so we should change the heading of the resolution? Resolution of preliminary and conditional final amended?
Sure.
I don't know if that's nitpicky or if that's something we need to,
Makes it
Yeah.
more clear.
so we would add that in.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
At the very top, the resolution of preliminary and conditional final
Yes,
amended. Any other comments from the board or the applicant?
None from the applicant.
I'm not hearing any from the board, so with that, I will entertain a motion to adopt the resolution of preliminary and conditional final amended site development plan approval for Van Wyck Muse, draft number 5 dated August 4th, 2022, and as amended at tonight's meeting, and to authorize the chair to sign. Do I have a motion? Fred, was that?
I so move.
I got Fred moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Bob, second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
I am going to actually oppose it, and I know I probably am alone on this one, but I'm just going to say my reasons why. I think the applicant's done a great job to try to mitigate a lot of the stuff that we've talked about, but I still feel that the 2006 Planning Board, I think they made a mistake when they allowed this project to go with only one access road. With too many, there's a lot of buildings and people in a small confined area, and I still think it's a safety issue. So for myself, and I'm probably alone on this, I feel it's still a safety issue, and though maybe legally I may not be correct here, but I will sleep better knowing that I did not confirm their approval, and I really think that they made a mistake when they did this. And I don't think it would have passed here at this board if it was a new site plan, and I'm going to stick to that. So, but I do appreciate that they did a lot to try to mitigate everything, bring down the room counts, but I still, that's my position on it. So that's one
All right,
opposed.
we have one opposed. We have 2 abstentions. So passes 4-1.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and good seeing you. Good night.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Rombout Fire District Station 2 Site Development Plan. Board to review submission made by the applicant's representative on July 26th, 2022. Good evening.
Good evening.
Didn't see you back there.
It's good to see you guys again. This board made...
Oh, sorry, if you wouldn't, I forgot, we have 2 abstain.
Oh, okay, sure.
Abstainers from the previous item, finding their way back in, I apologize.
No, not a problem. I should have known that. So, back in November of 2021, this board granted this project a conditioned preliminary approval. And the resolution of preliminary approval was had pretty standard conditions, which would normally be found in the condition of final approval, with the exception of the reference to the remaining items in the engineer's comment. There were some items in the engineer's comments that everyone was in agreement at that time that preliminary approval might be the better way to go. We were still working out water and sewer, whether there was going to be a septic system on site or whether we were going to have a connection to the town sewer, working out the Ocean State job lot easement, and coordination with DOT and a variance for the sign out front. So we walked away with our preliminary approval and we set to work. We are very close to the DOT permit for the traffic signal. That's been worked out. That was not actually part of the engineer's comment, but I offer that just for background information. What was probably the most significant development was that we were able to obtain Health Department approval for connecting to the Brinkerhoff water system and the Brinkerhoff sewer system. We submitted plans, we received very minor technical comments back, and in the meantime, we were approached by an adjacent property owner, who I believe you may be seeing soon, the Chestnut Petroleum Development. They were interested in connecting to the sewer. We discussed this with the town and its consultants, and we made the modification to the pumps, the proposed pump station to be designed that is in conformance with town standards. So it's going to be a municipally owned town station. We resubmitted that design back in either late May or early June to the Health Department, and we've been having meetings with the fire district since then to try to find out what we can do to kind of wrap this up, because they are now pressing to get their bond. As everyone is aware, with the rising interest rates, it's become a significant issue. And we're here in front of you without having the Health Department approval in hand and the variance in hand, because the variance application was not made until we knew that the Health Department was going to accept the design as presented, because the sign is right where all the crossings are. We're here because we have nothing left that we can do at this point other than wait for the Health Department approval to finalize things. And unfortunately, waiting is something that's is a significant burden on the applicant with the rising interest rates. And with that, I would like to introduce two of the commissioners who you've seen here before, Dan Silvestri and Bill Muller, to just give a little bit further background on why we're asking the planning board now to take this preliminary and make it a condition final, because we believe that the condition final approval will open the door to allow them to go and at least secure a bond and lock in a rate. Dan, Bill?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Dan Silvestri. This is Bill Muller.
If you, just please, if you can speak into the microphone. Thank you.
We're Dan Silvestri and Bill Muller. We're 2 of 5 commissioners representing the Roundabout Fire District. Good evening, everybody. I couldn't have said it better, as Larry did. We just want to summarize our position that we're put in, and maybe the board can consider this in what their decision would be. There's 2 major things holding us up right now, as I believe it, with you guys giving us the approval. The DOT, which is the light, Dan Reynolds is the project manager from Kramer Manning. He's working with Larry since January on the traffic signal improvements. There's 3 processes that we had to go through. We've met all 3, including an initial review in February, the design review in April, and now we just went for final submittal review just recently. So I hope I can say that that's in place. It's just a matter of the state coming and giving you a letter saying it's all approved. The second item was the Dutchess County Water and Sewer. And again, Larry informed you of such. The fire district has been involved with many conversations with the town supervisor, Ozzie Obra, and the assistant county executive, Ron Hicks. We just recently received a letter from the county, Mark Molinaro's office, and it's very short, and I'd like to just read it to you, and I can give you a copy for your records. It's made out to Supervisor Albra. I am following up on inquiry by Roundabout Fire District regarding the status of a submission with regard to, from their department, the Behavioral and Community Health, Environmental Health and Service, relating to the construction of the new firehouse on Route 52. The department's permitting and review process has a backlog about 3 months. However, we're reviewing this submittal the next week and will be complete in short order. I spoke with the engineer assigned to the submittal, who reviewed the previous submission and has high confidence that it will be turned over expeditiously. While New York State Department of Transportation permits will be ultimately required and easements, the county does not foresee any obstacles in the department pertaining to this, not approving this project. I can give you guys a copy of that letter for your records. I think you can safely say that's one of the things that we're addressing. Our other problem that we're having is, as Larry said, was our bonding. The taxpayers approved the bond money for us, but we haven't locked in. And we'd like to, part of the contingencies is getting a building permit. So I think you can agree that we, the commissioners at Roundabout, have done everything in our power to expedite this project. There's a couple of imperfect, outstanding items, these two being of them, but we're working on them. And they're no fault of anybody. It's due to COVID, it's due to people working at home, and lack of labor resources, so the paperwork is slow to follow. The district has not locked in an interest, like I said, but hopefully this will happen very shortly. Last month, the feds raised the interest rate 75 basis points. That interest rate costs the Roundabout taxpayers $73,000 a year more in interest expense, just because we can't do anything right now. There's talk about the feds increasing another 50 basis points in September. That's going to cost the taxpayers another $49,000 a year in interest expense. You add that up, it's $122,000 more of interest expense that we could keep in the taxpayers' pockets. And that's what us, as commissioners, of which we too are taxpayers in the Roundabout Fire District, we're stewards of the taxpayers to make sure that this money gets spent wisely. So I'm just asking everybody here, everything's out of control. We're trying to get this thing tied up so we can lock in and hopefully not run out of any money or not get this project off the ground before we even get started. So I'm just asking to help us out and understand our position in this too. Bill, you have anything to say?
Yeah, Dan and I guess together have about 90 years in Roundabout.
Yeah.
At this point. We've been at it, and one of the big things in the fire service is doing the right thing for taxpayers. We pay it, and we have a lot of people that are very good to us with the tax base. As we sit here and watch these dates, our early estimate in going for the bond or for the referendum was, if you do it by June, this is the number. And we went out with that. And they said, but if you don't do it by June, prices are going to go up 5% per month. And building a firehouse is about opposite of any other project. We don't have builders yet. We don't have the contractors to go out and do it. When we get bonded and when we get our money, then we go out and we get contractors and say, how much is it going to cost to build this building? I'm listening tonight to all you talking about fees, but particularly around landscaping. We don't even know what landscaping is going to cost. So if you needed that number to get us a final approval, we don't have it. Because once we get approval to go out as a fire district, we go out and, maybe we're finished with the town, but now we got to do what the state wants. And we got a whole list of things that we have to do to follow New York State Controllers Group and make sure that taxpayer money is spent very, very efficiently. So this delay is killing us. It's the taxpayers of the Rombau Fire District, it's killing them. I thought we had a pretty good traffic light out there until DOT came along and says, it's going to cost you $250,000 if you want our approval. And I thought that light worked good, but DOT says if you want our approval, that's what it's going to cost you. So we've also done things, and I've lived, in Dutchess Park for over 50 years. In the last 20 years or so, there's been a moratorium about bringing water up to Dutchess Park. Anybody that wanted to add water, the answer coming out of the county was, no, you can't add anybody to it. Well, in working with the town and our project, we have worked together to try and get past that moratorium so that we have water at the firehouse, we can feed our sprinkler, but we can also be able to break that log jam and get water into Dutchess Park for anything new or needs. So a lot of things that we're doing aren't just for the firehouse. The traffic light, I hope benefits everybody. The water, the sewer, and we could have probably put a different sewer arrangement there, but we're hearing we got an aquifer under that property, and we didn't want to go anywhere near it. So we decided to go with the pump station to try and clean that up. So there's a lot of things in the background. We don't get to talk to you guys about all the things that we're doing. We want to buy a new fire truck. We got to get a sprinkler system in the building because you got to protect what these things are starting to cost right now. So that's it. Just want to get some words out there, let you know what we're fighting with and our taxpayers. And we don't want to raise taxes any more than we have to, but in a lot of ways, we raise the taxes to get the money from the taxpayers of Rombau to turn over to the town. So when you guys are looking at all these fees, remember it's tax money going to tax money. We've been there 90 years. We're not going anywhere. We're not making a profit. We're not your average builder. We're there, and we're out there for the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I know, John, you provided a comment memo, and I guess it would make sense to briefly go through that, but I'd also like, once you do that, to figure out, are we in a position where we could conceivably pass something or have a motion tonight to draft I guess, conditional final approval is what the applicant's looking for. So I guess we'll start with your comment letter, and then I'd believe that's the direction we need to go, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'd like to see if that's possible, or, so let's start with the comment.
Yeah, just one clarification. Debbie pointed this out after I had already submitted our comment letter dated August 1st. Number one, the floodplain development permit will need to be reviewed and processed by the town's floodplain administrator. Well, in this case, that would be the planning board, and we did do a public hearing that covered all that, so that
The public hearing covered both.
Yeah.
For the record.
So
yes.
that comment really is not applicable. The remaining comments are, Larry outlined the agency approvals that are outstanding. We've asked for a meets and bounds description of the utility easement, the proposed utility easement. Those are all very often standard conditions of a final site plan approval, so I wouldn't have issue with that.
Dominic, your thoughts on whether this board, sounds like we should, but...
Yeah, I think the board should authorize preparation of a conditional final approval resolution. I understand that there's some technical aspects to it or financial bonding requirements, but I think having a draft of that resolution prepared will be helpful for everyone to work through that process. And I think that in the meantime, I would encourage the applicant's engineer to work with Mr. Bodendorf to see what, if anything, can be addressed in connection with certain elements of bonding for landscaping and whatnot, understanding that there isn't a developer yet, or there isn't a builder, rather, for this.
Yeah, I'd like to clarify that. I don't think the bonding issues are really relative to what we're going to want to see in the resolution. We do have an estimate prepared by the landscape professional for the landscape bond, which I think we can use. It's the best we're going to do with, it's the best guess that anybody's going to have at this point, whether you have, a builder in place or not. The bonding that they're struggling with is the bonding that they need to secure to build the firehouse. And as time goes on, as Dan mentioned, those rates are climbing and costing.
And just for clarification, that's not planning board bonding.
Right, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Public bonds that are
Exactly.
issued to pay for public improvements by the fire district, so.
So
Understood.
I do have one question for your attorney, and this is really coming out of left field, so, I've been in front of this board a lot of years on a lot of projects, and I don't think I've ever asked this before. We have a preliminary approval resolution. The final resolution of approval is not really going to change. Is there the possibility that, rather than asking your consultants to prepare a draft resolution, we could vote on the preliminary as a final? And the only reason I'm asking that is because of my understanding, your timing, the time of the next meeting is when you were hoping to lock in your bond amount, and they would need to know that you have a condition final approval at that point. It's actually the day of the meeting. So I don't know if that's a possibility or not. So I know that's.
you have not had the we have not had the opportunity.
It does predate me, so I have not reviewed the preliminary approval resolution, but I'm also, even having not reviewed it, I'm quite positive that there are items that are contained in the conditional final that are not in the preliminary.
Okay.
Typically, so.
I had to ask.
Yeah.
Did we ever do such a thing?
I'm sorry?
Did we ever do
I don't think we've ever done that.
Yeah, I don't
Debbie
recall
can.
ever saying it.
Yeah,
Not in my time here. That's been a long time.
Not in the last 2 years.
We understand the
Yeah.
hardships that are being endured here, but to.
Yeah, so, what I've been trying to do, and I think I have recently, has been to prepare a draft resolution at least a week out prior to the board's meeting, so you all have additional time to review it. And so that was what I would endeavor to do in this case, if the board authorizes me to do so. And that can be shared with you as well a week out, so at least you know that where things are heading, or identify any issues that you might have with it that you can then discuss at the board meeting.
So what's being said is that they're actually going to produce the draft resolution for consideration at the next meeting, which is the day you're meeting with the bonding council and the bonding company. But you'll have a draft to be able to tell them this is what's being voted on tonight. So.
By the time of your meeting, you'll have a draft of it.
I have one
Give
question.
a shot, right?
Sorry, I have one question to Dominic. So even if you prepare the resolution, do you think you will be able to fill up the exact amounts for certain bonds?
Not unless we have more information from either the applicant or Mr. Bodendorf to support that.
So what was the question? I'm sorry.
The amounts of the bonds that are required for landscaping, for maintenance and such.
I think we addressed that in the preliminary approval. I thought it was like a $40,000.
That, I think you might be right. We'll have to look back, but I do believe that was included in the preliminary resolution.
And I apologize, I haven't seen it.
And I'll forward Dominic a copy of the preliminary resolution.
But we should probably run a motion to have Larry coordinate with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
between now and the next meeting. So
That-
we should-
that would be
maybe
good.
we should start with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, we can get you whatever information you need to
Yeah,
accommodate
so
that.
I did not receive any files, prior,
Okay.
to becoming
So
council.
I will,
So I don't have any historic files for any of
Oh,
this stuff.
boy.
So I have an awesome resource in Debbie, who sends me great things in terms of what I need, but, so I have not reviewed the preliminary approval resolution prior to tonight.
I don't know if it's of any help to authorize also if Dominic has any questions for us that we might be able to help, that we could coordinate with him directly as well.
Of course.
Yeah, I was going to entertain a motion to allow Mr. Paggi to coordinate directly with our consultants, both
Perfect.
Yes.
Mr. Cordisco and Mr.
Perfect.
Bodendorf, between now and the next meeting
Beautiful.
regarding issues related to the resolution. So do I have that?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? And motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. I think because that preliminary was done before we started doing this performance bond stuff, there's not going to be a performance bond number there. So that's something I think you'll need, Mr. Paggi.
Okay.
Because
Well, if
that
it was not in the preliminary approval, I
Right.
do remember we did develop it. I'm pretty sure it's in one of our comment letters, or one of our
Okay.
response letters, so
Yeah.
we have that amount, we can give it to you.
Okay, but that, yeah, I don't think it would be in
I
that
think that's the
preliminary.
number we would work with, and it'd be
Yes.
good to have that. yeah.
Okay.
And we'd have the same kind of wording that Mr. Cardozo had in the last two, with the Healy project and now with the Toll Brothers project.
Another thing, we are not guaranteeing that the resolution will be approved at the next
No,
meeting.
of course not. We are not guaranteeing that.
We are not guaranteeing that, right?
No.
So, Dominic, I was going to ask for a motion for the site development plan. Do I need to ask for a motion? Do I need to include the floodplain as well?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, we would do both at the same time.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to allow our consultants to prepare a draft resolution of conditional final approval for Rombout Fire District Station 2 Site Development Plan and Floodplain Development Permit.
So moved.
Felix moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Bob second. Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for your understanding, your cooperation, and your assistance. Thanks.
Well, we hope it helps.
It does. It does.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Crazy to say that?
Oh, yeah,
The town
please.
board sets the amount,
Thank you.
certain. No, the answer is no.
Item number 7 on tonight's agenda, 415 to 453 US Route 9 Site Development Plan and CHI Acquisitions LP, 2-lot subdivision, board to review the applications and supporting documentation that were referred by the board at the June 11th, 2022 meeting. Said review was deferred at the request of the applicant at the July 14th, 2022 meeting. And I'll just remind everyone, this was on our July agenda, but the applicant had not yet complied with Section 114-3 of our code regarding notice to adjoining property owners, so tonight is our first project review.
Correct. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Richard O'Rourke from the law firm of Keenan Bean. We're attorneys for CHI Acquisitions, the developer of this property, redevelopment, I should say, of this property. We acknowledge receipt, thank you, Debbie, of a letter August 5th, 2022, which is our first review letter involving the SWIP as well as comments on our traffic submission. So we have received that. We also have received a copy of a letter dated July 12th in regard to a review on secret and general information. Here tonight with me is Brad Vandervliet of CHI Acquisitions, representing the purchaser of the property. We have with us our site engineer, Franz Lockey, who's with SESI, consulting engineers that developed the plans that you had before you. And Amanda LaRosa is here, our traffic engineer from Stonefield Engineering and Design. The last time we were here, we gave you a full-blown presentation, including we brought our architect up from St. Louis, and we were able to share elevations with you, such as that. And obviously, what we want to do is proceed, and now that we have received these comments, we recognize that we can and will be responding to them. I'm wondering, does the board want us to have a quick overview presentation once again of the site and what we're proposing?
I think that would be appropriate, yes.
Okay. Franz, could you help us with the plans?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Is there a way we can bring up the site plan?
Sure. You can actually control it from up there. That's right. So while this is loading up here, it's a large file. So we are proposing to redevelop a portion of the Dutchess Mall facility. There's currently a portion of the mall still there, which is abandoned, as you guys know, along with Home Depot and a couple retail pads as well. We're looking to subdivide the property into two separate lots. The site that we're going to be developing at this time will be home to a 350,000 square foot warehouse with associated parking and loading at approximately 78 loading docks, 30 trailer spaces. There are 215 parking spaces. It's not loading because the file is so large. Sorry.
Okay. I brought boards which I can get out.
Problem is the cameras.
I got you. Okay. So, and this is a cross-docked building which is set to the rear of the property. And in the front there would be the remainder of the lot, which is subdivided out, which would be for future development, not by our client here. The main access point for all trucks and cars would be a center access road, currently right in the middle of the proposed building, and that will be for both trucks and cars. Trucks will be able to circulate to the rear of the property and the front of the property, as this is a cross-dock building with both loading docks facing Route 9 as well as the wetlands to the rear. There's an additional roadway to the south which has access for trucks and cars, but would limit it to only passenger cars for exiting back onto Route 9. No trucks. The trucks would have to go around through the main entrance. We are proposing to meet all stormwater regulations. We have some, it's fully lighted site. We will meet the site lighting code. I understand there's some deficiencies with the mounting height, which was brought up in the review letter. We will address that along with all other comments that we have received thus far.
I apologize, it's just not loading. If you want to go to the boards.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
Yes. If they're not going to see anything,
I
it's
don't have
the
any
same.
easels, that's the problem. I got an easel. Do you?
They're prepared.
Should we take a few minutes to allow that to get
Yeah.
set up?
Probably a good idea.
It's 9:42 right now. Let's give it till...
Set it right up next to you.
You jumped the gun.
I'll pick it up on camera.
I did.
Oh, good. Look at that. See?
Ta-da.
Ta-da.
Maybe
Thank you.
he needed to walk away.
You just have to say, please.
Yeah, try moving to the
It took a while.
Every time you move it, it's going to be like...
But yeah, I think,
Oh, I love when it does the
I would get the
buffering.
boards for
Yeah, I
that.
think it needs a little more
When
rain.
it goes like, look, your eyes are going in and out. My computer at work, the same thing every time I open it.
Oh, there, yeah, there, okay.
Same thing.
As bad as I thought it might be.
There you go.
1, 2, 3.
Keep going.
You might be able to scroll with the touchpad there.
Yes, I'm just trying
Oh.
to see if I can skip to the page quicker. 1, 2, 3, 4.
that easel should be placed, I guess, right below the,
Probably a good idea.
Yeah.
You know what, he's better off where he is because...
oh, right next to him?
Yeah,
Only because of the there's not a microphone over there?
yeah, okay. Just leave it like that then.
I like that better.
Yeah.
I'm stuck with you though. Oh, you're moving.
They're both good.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it to load, it's still not loaded.
If you're gonna speak
I'm
off,
trying to get to page 8 anyway.
8?
8, yes.
if you're gonna speak off of the easel, just try to keep the microphone in that direction.
I see if you can go
I
ahead
gotcha.
and control it now.
We're not making it easy here.
Sorry.
Technology.
Oh, there, yeah.
Is that white building to the right of your building, is that Walmart, Home Depot?
Home,
Yeah, Fred, just, if you could
Yes,
just,
this is the current
Yeah.
Home Depot.
oh,
Okay,
I
so
don't
that
know.
is Home Depot.
Yes,
okay.
Okay, and then you have 2 pads out front which you're not taking.
correct.
3 pads.
Yeah, potentially 3 pads. Here. All right, so this is the center access road that I was speaking of. There are potentially 3 pads. We have a roadway bisecting 2 of the pads to get to the other development. So none of this, other than for the fact of the subdivision, is part of this application. Everything to the rear of the rear of the lot is part of this application. As you can see on this rendering, which was put up, we have, and it's identical to the site plan that's brought up. The only difference is that, this is colorized versus the site plan is not. So we've got a building in the center, 350,000 square feet on a proposed lot of 28.9 acres. Loading in the front and the rear, facing Route 9 in the front, facing the golf course and the undeveloped area to the rear. We are ringing the site in street trees and landscaping to enhance the entire feel of the facility. We have a proposed road, which is improvements to an existing road, essentially, which will have an easement for access to the golf course as well. But this road, which is to the south, will have access for trucks and cars to enter, but only cars will exit. All other trucks will be routed through the center access. We have outfitted the building for an office on either end of the building. Both of them are facing Route 9. Typically in the warehouse, and especially this one here, that is the more eye-catching, the more appealing portion of the building, where it brings in character, storefront colors, and everything else. So we want to keep that towards Route 9. And we have associated parking lots, 175 cars on one end, 140 on the other, for each of the lots, for a total of, I'm sorry, that is actually wrong. We have a total of 215 car parking. The northern car parking lot is less than 175. So overall, that's the gist of the site. We do have a trailer lot out to the northern end, which is behind Home Depot, kind of tucked away in a corner. And you have any questions?
Is that going to be a new entrance? That center one?
The center one, it's an existing
That's the
existing driveway now.
That's the existing with the
We're-
light that's not working.
Correct.
that the one
Yeah,
that
there's
is-
no traffic light there. I believe there used to be one a number of years ago. Storm damage is what I'm told, took it down, and it's not there at this time. We are proposing no new curb cuts on Route 9.
So if you're coming out and take a left turn, you'll have to.
No, you can't go out.
Coming to make a left turn, I'll let our traffic engineer speak to any traffic concerns here.
You can, I mean, okay.
I just, quick question. Where would this is an overlay, so what would be, if you're overlaying that over the existing building, where is the existing building at? Because I want to see how much bigger this is than the existing building.
The existing building takes up, I'd say, roughly 2/3 of the proposed building.
Okay, so it comes out a lot further, right?
Sorry, one question.
Right now, the front is it's all paved, it's all parking lot.
Yeah.
So we're,
Okay, the front is, but the north end of that building is not. That was part of the buildings that was torn down when they put up Home Depot.
so the northern part of the building,
Yeah, there was more to that.
there is, you're right, a portion of the northern part of the building, there is not the mall still there, because that portion was demolished a number of years ago.
When they put up Home Depot.
Yes, when they built Home Depot.
So where are the 175 parking lots you said?
So there's a parking lot on the northern end here, and the southern end, there are two separate parking
Is
lots.
that also parking behind Home Depot?
This is trailer parking behind Home Depot
Okay.
for trailer storage for the building.
Okay, and you said there was another parcel that, besides the 3 pads in the front? Was
No,
there-
this is one parcel in the rear, another parcel in the front.
Okay.
It's a 2-lot subdivision.
If I could clarify, though, it's a 2-lot subdivision, but in addition to the warehouse development, there's 3 pad sites effectively that would be proposed that are not, they're not looking for approval for any particular use on those, but they could be developed in the future.
Are you buying the 3 pads in the front?
No.
Okay.
No, they're looking to subdivide that lot, and it could be sold to someone else who comes in and proposes to put, I mean, a Cracker Barrel would be a bad example, because there's a Cracker Barrel on the road, but, you know.
But right now, you have McDonald's there to the north.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
And you have the bank,
Which I believe is vacant.
which is vacant, and that's off to the right.
Yeah. But these would be,
Okay,
you
so
know,
these are
areas
being
for
retained
future.
by the owners of the owners
Or
of the property
sold,
now.
or, you know, it could be, since it's being subdivided, it could be sold and be in separate ownership, and with the intention of developing those white areas, those 3 white areas along Route 9 that you see on that plan.
Yeah, they're pads.
Yeah.
But what is being presented is what this board is.
But what
Reviewing.
you're purchasing is the area in green and the warehouse.
Yes, correct.
That's your property line.
Correct. Yes.
So, I guess what he was trying to say, I guess that part of the new building coming forward is going to be eating up a lot of that, which is now just basically, it was like a park and ride, and people were just parking and abandoning stuff inside there. So the building is coming forward a little bit to that parking lot.
Yes, the building is extending into the current parking lot,
Okay.
yes. The parking lot, the overall pavement for the parking lot is going to be getting smaller based on this application.
So looking at your building, you're about 3 times the size of Home Depot.
Roughly.
So I think at this point, it's, and we can come back to the board, I'd like to get to John, because John had 2 memos that he prepared, one in July and then one in August, and then I think, if we can go through the key points there, then we could circle back to the board for any additional comments, because I have a bunch as well. So we'll start with.
Yeah, the July 12th memo was really just a preliminary review, because at that point, we hadn't had a chance to go through the traffic and the SWIP that was submitted. But we did note a number of items and cleanup in the EAF that needs to be completed, noting that wetland disturbance and floodplain development permits are going to be required, some issues with the lighting plan, some housekeeping issues on the subdivision plan, the need for to provide structural calcs for any retaining walls that are above 4 feet. We've asked for a cut fill analysis. We've asked that they give us a little more detail with respect to what they're going to do with drainage, like are they going to provide an oil water separator prior to wetland discharges, any test data they did for their drainage design, and on and on. And then the intent of the August 5th memo was to just focus on SWIP and traffic, and unfortunately, part of our previous memo got attached to the end of that, so really you should just focus on the first 4 sheets of that, and I apologize for that. So 5, 6, and 7 are just repeats of some of the comments that were provided in the July 12th memo.
Are there any key points in that memo, any key points in the August memo and related to storm and traffic that should be highlighted?
I mean, we have a total of 13 comments on the SWIP. There was nothing in there that really jumped out at us as anything major. I mean, this is, I believe you are reducing the amount of impervious slightly over what's existing. Is that right?
We are increasing the impervious.
Oh, it is an increase, okay.
Slightly, yeah.
Okay, but it's, you know, it's mostly impervious now, so, but we've asked for, you know, additional details such as discharge and storage structures for stormwater management, phasing plan, those kind of things. And as far as traffic goes, again, this is under jurisdiction of DOT, but we did provide a review and had several comments. Again, there aren't any showstoppers in here, but we did ask for some clarifications on collision analysis provided, some additional information on other planned development projects, like what's being proposed behind this, which we haven't seen the full plan for yet. And we asked for more information about the site circulation to justify some assumptions that were made in the report. And let's see, traffic signal. And we've asked for some more information on the traffic signal warrant analysis that they provided. So that's essentially the comment memo in a nutshell.
If I may, Amanda, our traffic engineer, is here, and she'd like to, if possible, just address some of the questions that you raised.
Okay, that's fine.
If that's okay with
I'm not the traffic consultant for our company, so.
Well, that's one of the things.
I'll keep it fairly general for now.
We'll look forward to the responses in writing.
I think there's a value in allowing her to at least explain some of the key elements of the traffic, so.
Hi, Amanda LaRosa with Stonefield Engineering. We're the traffic consultant on behalf of the applicant.
You can move the microphone down. Yeah,
Is that better?
Yeah.
We prepared the traffic study that was dated May 5th, or May 25th, submitted for review. We are in receipt of the comments that we're discussing. We're prepared to fully address them. I just want to clarify that there has been a small change in access. We had previously been contemplating use of the signal to the north, closer to the community college. That's no longer on the table, so there will be some revisions to the traffic study. Your comment letter had included some requests in that nature, so there will be a revised traffic study that's forthcoming. We had submitted to the DOT back in April, and we're actually still awaiting comments. Their office is significantly delayed. So we will coordinate all off-site roadway improvements with the DOT. We're anticipating some improvements on the roadway frontage, either widening the roadway to provide an additional turning lane to accommodate the trucks, the possibility of reinstalling the signal that was knocked down by a traffic accident is on the table, but ultimately is the jurisdiction of the DOT. So hopefully by the next time I see you, I'll have more information on their feelings on that matter.
Yeah, I think that was a few of the items, you touched on a few of the items I had, and in particular, at the southern end, if it would be possible to have a turn lane there as well, because right at that southern end is kind of where Route 9 becomes one lane, so there's often a lot of cars kind of jockeying for position as it becomes one lane, so perhaps having that, like a right in at that southern end. But
Sure.
again, that's probably something the DOT would have to opine on.
Yeah, we anticipate having to prepare turning movement templates for all of the trucks that are going to access our site, so all of that will be vetted out through the DOT process, and we're happy to provide copies of every submission that goes into DOT for your review.
Okay. Excellent. Any questions from the board on the traffic?
No, actually, she's answered a couple of my questions.
So I think the Dutchess County GML letter had suggested further reducing the parking spaces. Based on the analysis, I think in the traffic study, it was down to as few as 137.
That was a review from the county?
From Dutchess County GML letter from July 11th.
Oh. I'm not sure that I've actually seen that letter.
Well, I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is the planning board would support any reductions in parking where feasible, and we do, there is a section of the code, 150-159 of the town code that would allow us to waive some of the required parking spaces in that particular district, so.
Okay.
I don't know if that.
So is additional information needed if we would like to pursue that request?
I mean, if it could be reduced, we'd like to, see, to the maximum extent. Yeah, of course, that depends on how many spaces are truly needed.
Okay, we're happy to look into that.
There was one thing that Amanda thought that might be helpful in terms of moving us along, and that's this. I know John's not the traffic engineer, and I know that we need to ask permission for her to speak with your traffic consultant. And because we know that the traffic is really, quite frankly, one of the major issues we have on this, and Amanda said to me that she'd like us to have permission for her to speak directly with the traffic consultant.
I think that would be reasonable, and that we can make that motion right now before we go any farther. I'll entertain a motion to allow the applicant to communicate with the CPL's traffic consultant regarding the 415 to 453 Route 9 project.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask, should we limit it only to them speaking to Mr. Bodendorf, or is there any questions that the applicant might need to speak to our consultant about? So this way, maybe we do it in one shot. Does that make sense?
We appreciate opening up the dialogue with you, with your consultants, but I know that your process and procedure,
yes,
which I respect, and that's why I'm humbly asking for permission so that we can talk to one another.
Right,
so
well, that's what I'm trying to expand it, not to have just her speak to our traffic people, make it that you can speak to any one of our consultants. Yes, Mr. Chairman, what do you think?
That's,
Mr.
I'm sorry, if that's.
Dominic?
It's usually for a purpose, but that's totally up to the board.
I mean, if it will.
If that's something the applicant's willing to, because they'll be communicating with our consultants, and there will be a cost associated with that.
Well, we certainly want to do it with traffic. That was my request. So if we can go beyond it, that's fine, but I think really to move things along, it would be just
Let's
so
do
much
it
easier.
let's do it for the
Traffic.
purpose of traffic this evening, and if there are other issues that arise at subsequent meetings, we can expand upon it.
Sure.
So
Thank you.
That
I so
motion,
move.
so Fred moved it. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple comments, if I may.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't sure if you were ready for that, but, yeah.
Yes.
You can jump in.
Thanks. I mean, procedurally, I think, as Mr. Bodendorf mentioned, that this is a type 1 action that should be confirmed by the board. I also believe that there were some minor cleanup items in the EAF, but I would suggest that subject to those revisions being made in the EAF, that the board should consider circulating for lead agency at this time. That would at least move this process along and help identify any issues that other interested or involved agencies might have in the project.
Agreed, and I did have a question. There was a letter in April from SHPO that said a Phase 1A archaeological study was warranted. Is there any update on the timing of that?
I know we forwarded that on to our consultants.
Right.
We have a draft that is being prepared.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about demolition?
I'm sorry?
What about demolition of the site?
About demolition
What
of
about demolition of the site?
archaeological study would,
I mean, there's probably some fixtures in that building from 1968.
Yeah.
More concerned with asbestos.
If you want to talk about a, shall we say, disturbed site, in more ways than one, you know, that's something that clearly, I think, you know, we're well aware of it. SHPO's well aware of it. We're engaging in what is required of us with SHPO, and I think that's our first step. We certainly, our whole intention here is to obviously clean up that site and make it productive, so.
understood. Any additional comment from the board?
No. You need the recast the EAF.
So, Dominic, if I'm correct, we need to make a motion to classify this project as a type 1 action under seeker?
Correct.
Would we make that just one?
You can do that individually and then talk about circulating for lead agency separately or together. It's up to the board. The only caveat that I have in connection with circulating for lead agency is, as Mr. Bodendorf pointed out, there are a couple very minor cleanup items in the EAF. I would not recommend that they have to come back before the board to check those boxes or make those
So
clarifications.
what we can do is we can make the corrections on the EAF, resubmit it before you do your circulation.
We'll have to, yes, what I would appreciate is a phone call, because I'm gonna have to figure out how many copies of whatever I need for that circulation.
Okay.
Okay? Depending on who they decide to circulate to in their motion.
Yeah, for convenience purposes.
Well, don't you have your standard list of involved agencies that you?
I don't.
You don't? Okay, all right. Okay, all right, shall we submit one to you, Dominic, and just to make sure that we haven't missed something, or?
Well, I would suggest you submit it to Debbie.
Okay.
And she'll circulate it to John and I to confirm that the EAF is in shape to be circulated. But it's some very minor comments in his July memo from John. But to move things along, I would suggest that the board consider typing the action as type 1 and authorizing the circulation for lead agency subject to the revisions in the EAF as noted.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to that extent for 415, 453 US Route 9 Site Development Plan and CHI Acquisitions, LP 2-lot subdivision.
So moved.
Felix moves it. Have a second?
Second.
Bob seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain?
Yeah,
Motion carries.
Fine, thanks. I do have two other more substantive issues rather than procedural issues that I just want to flag now for the board's consideration and for the applicant as well. What catches my attention is the 3 pad sites as part of the subdivision. They're not proposing to develop them. They would be proposed for development in the future. But if this was a residential subdivision and there was a number of homes proposed and then this gigantic lot in the back that was left vacant for a potential future subdivision, the board would be within its rights to require an analysis of what that subdivision would look like in the future. I'm not suggesting that CHI or the applicant here have to design exactly what's going to go on those pad sites because that's not their proposal, but the certain aspects of it should be evaluated as part of the subdivision because the subdivision is effectively creating an additional lot that can be developed that could not be developed today without any other approvals. So I think that the board and the board's consultants and the applicant should give some consideration. And the purpose of all this is to avoid any claims that there's been some segmentation in the review of the subdivision here where, you know, these are being identified as potential pad sites in the future. For instance, you mentioned a Chick-fil-A before. Perhaps a Chick-fil-A would be appropriate. I'm not suggesting that a Chick-fil-A has to be designed for this location, although I certainly would frequent it if it was. But in any event...
Not on a Sunday.
Correct. You know, and not with my wife, because she won't go. But in any event, you know, I think that, you know, and for instance, for traffic, that like there should be some quantification of what the potential traffic impacts would be if those 3 pad sites were developed, especially since there's going to be shared access in connection with that. So that's one. And these are just suggestions. I mean, obviously, it's up to the board as to what areas of impacts that you want to focus on. The second one is that the proposal is to have the essentially cross-loaded warehouse, right? So there's dock doors in the back, and then there's dock doors in the front that are also facing Route 9. That, you know, will have some level of visual impact, and I know that the applicant is proposing to mitigate that visual impact by the landscaping that's there. There was a rendering that was submitted originally as part of the application, but I noticed from the rendering that it's actually taken from the side.
Yeah,
correct. And so additional renderings that show perhaps the view of what the dock doors in particular are going to look like from Route 9 might be helpful in the board in evaluating visual impacts. And I'll stop talking now.
The valid request. The issue is that with regard to the 2 pads in the front, they're really out of our control because those are properties that will be owned by seller. And so what we'll have to do is speak with them, but I understand your request really from a generic point of view. We have no idea what that possible use might be, but I understand that there will be a contributing traffic to the overall site and that access way, so.
Yeah, I think you hit on the key word there was generic, but there has to be some evaluation, I would say.
Understand.
For it.
Okay, all right. Is there anything else? Thank you very much.
Yeah, I don't believe we need to make any motion to those recommendations.
No, I think I just wanted to flag them early on because I don't like to hit someone with new issues later on in the process that I'm actually thinking of now. And also, I might forget them.
Well, from our perspective, we would like those to be just 2 grass pads right in front, so that this way we can get through the process, but I understand. We can't commit to that because we don't own the property and won't own the property, but I appreciate that. Thank you very much for your time. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next item on the agenda is Fishkill Support Center of Jehovah's Witnesses Site Development Plan. Board to review submission made by the applicant's representative on July 27th, 2022, as well as the draft EAF Part 2 and the draft EAF Part 3. And before I turn it over to the applicant, I do want to make note that the public hearing was closed at the last planning board meeting with a written comment period through July 22nd, 2022, and we did receive multiple comments, and I'd just like to briefly identify those who had provided comments for the record. On July 21st, we received an email from Adele Asai and family. On July 21st, we received an email from David Maddox. On July 21st, we received an email from Nora Reisig. On July 22nd, 2022, we received an email from Jen Peterson, Yuri Snehur, Pam Jones, and Heather Spadafino. And after the public hearing closed, we did receive a message on July 25th from Peter Schaefer, which is not part of the hearing, but it is part of the project record. So just wanted to identify all those. Those are items that our board has received and also the applicant. And so I'll turn it over to you. Good evening.
Good evening. Joel Heyer, representing Jehovah's Witnesses for this project. As mentioned, we had a pretty hefty submittal that we gave for this last reply. Our effort, our purpose in that was to try to just spell everything out that had been talked about for over the past few months with the public hearing, and also to address a few of the comments that were made at the last public hearing as well. Specifically, some changes to the plan since that hearing is that we've lowered the light fixtures from 20 feet to 18 feet, as was requested for consideration. We have changed the landscaping plan to show faster growing evergreens than what we had previously proposed. And we have, four things. Oh, on the mound that were the part of our sound buffer mound, we've added landscaping to the top of that. I believe that was one of the board members' requests to make it look just a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. And then we have also agreed to not use the sports fields until the shells of the other buildings have been constructed and the mound put in place, as was requested. So in other words, a sound barrier will be there, and then we'll be able to use the fields. And other than that, the plans are pretty much the same as what has been being discussed. We just wanted to make sure that those were highlighted because they're addressing some of the concerns that were raised at the last public hearing.
Okay, thank you. At this point, I'm going to ask Mr. Bodendorf to go through his memo.
Yeah, thanks. Really, the only outstanding comment at this point is the applicant providing documentation that they received health department approval. We did provide a separate memo regarding the revised traffic impact study, and it looks lengthy, but basically what it's saying is they've addressed all the comments and concerns that we had brought up. The only outstanding item were some typos in the report, but honestly, that's not something that we would request a revised study for. So as far as we're concerned, the traffic comments have been adequately addressed.
Okay. Dominic, do you have any comments at this point?
No, I think the next thing for the board to consider would be reviewing the draft Part 2 of the EAF that was prepared by Mr. Bodendorf.
Before I do that, I just want to give the board an opportunity. Are there any comments regarding the submittal package that was provided by the applicant? Any items that they wish to bring up at this time?
I have a few, but I think maybe we'll go through the EAFs first, and then we can address them.
That's fine. We can do that. All right. So I guess at this point, I will ask Mr. Bodendorf to lead us through the EAF Part 2 and Part 3. And I believe, you know, if you can, like, I know we're going to go through each item because this is the long form. I just would, as you go through each one, let's just pause, because I know I have some comments and thoughts, and see if the board has any as well.
No, certainly, this is your document, so it's important that you all weigh in and make sure that it reflects how you feel about the project. So anyway, to start, the first item is impact on land. We check that as yes. However, the only item we flagged as a potential impact was item F. The proposed action may result in increased erosion, whether from physical disturbance or vegetation removal. And the mitigation there is an erosion control plan and an approved SWIP.
I would consider adding a check mark with an asterisk next to H, other impacts, and perhaps we should make mention of the large amount of grading that would come with the relocated soil mound.
Okay, that's fair.
Now, I'll ask the board if they have any other thoughts or items that should be added to number 1, impact on land. Not hearing any, so we can move on to number 2.
Sorry, I'm just making some notes. So number 2 is impact on geological features. We mark that as no. The items under that don't really fit for this project. Number 3, if impacts on surface water, we check that yes. And the one item we flagged as a potential impact was D, the proposed action may involve construction within or adjoining a freshwater or tidal wetland or in the better banks of any other water body. And the mitigation there is that they have had all the wetlands flagged, and they are not showing any disturbance within any of the wetland areas or the adjacent buffer areas.
It's flagged due to the proximity.
Correct.
Any other comments or thoughts from the board? Okay, we'll move on to number 4.
Okay, impact on groundwater. We check that no. The site will be served by municipal water, so should be no impacts on groundwater. Impact on flooding, we check that no. There is no floodplain associated with the project. Impact on air, we check that no. Again, the items listed under that category don't really apply to a project such as this. Number 7, impact on plants and animals, we check that yes. And the one item we marked as a potential impact was item B. The proposed action may result in reduction or degradation of any habitat used by any rare, threatened, or endangered species, and as listed by the New York State or the federal government. And again, like many sites throughout the Hudson Valley, this site has potential Indiana bat habitat, and the mitigation there for just like every other site that comes up under that is they are limited to tree cutting during a certain period of the year. So
correct, and I believe the applicant had mentioned that they're complying to the felling of trees during the appropriate window, so.
Correct. So if we're good there. 8, impact on agricultural resources. We check that no. There's no ag land here. 9, impact on aesthetic resources. We check that yes, and flag the first item under that category. The proposed action may be visible from any officially designated federal, state, or local scenic or aesthetic resource I mean, you've got the Hudson River and the bridge, but
And the
again.
trail.
Rail trail, yeah. But they are providing screening from adjoining landowners, and the visual impacts will be minimal, if at all.
Okay.
Number 10, impact on historic and archaeological resources, we checked that yes. Under that, item B, the proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to an area designated as sensitive for archaeological sites on the New York State Historic Preservation Office Archaeological Site Inventory. The mitigation there was the applicants did their Phase 1A study of SHPO, and there was no further report or studies requested by the agency.
Correct.
Number 11, impact on open space and recreation. We checked that no. The items listed under that category don't really apply here. Same with number 12, impact on critical environmental areas.
Now, the soil cap portion, that doesn't fall under.
A critical environmental area is actually a specifically designated area. It's designated, for instance, by a municipality, where, for instance, like the Great Swamp could be designated as a critical environmental area. But the town board here would have had to say this is something, but it's not typically, I know I'm jumping ahead, but it's not typically for like a brownfields or any kind of contamination issue, but rather it's because there's something that's like a heightened resource.
We could bring that up under the human health
Yes,
portion.
certainly.
But I just wanted to make that,
Certainly.
I know I'm bringing it up and I'm glad you answered it because, that may be the thought from others watching as well, so.
Certainly, and it's a good question.
Okay.
13, impact on transportation, we checked that yes. And we wrote in F, other impacts, the proposed action could result in the construction of parking areas that could accommodate the cumulative parking of over 250 vehicles at one time. They have reduced the number of proposed parking spaces, but there still is some land banked areas.
So you've listed the 250, we've listed the 250 in this document to identify what the full required could be.
Correct. 14, impact on energy, we checked that no. The items listed under there don't apply. Impact on noise, odor, and light, we checked that yes. A, the proposed action may produce sound above noise levels established by local regulation.
Does item A include noise during construction, or would that be listed under other impacts? Or is that just like?
I believe that's typically assumed for any construction project, and.
I mean, we're saying.
Action would include construction.
We are saying, no or small impact, so we are acknowledging that potential small impact.
Correct.
Right, and by the mitigation there that the applicant has provided is moving the ball fields and to remote areas of the site, providing a mound to provide sound attenuation.
And their willingness in their letter, which we can get to.
Right.
Conditions down the road to, to a study in the future.
This is one I would like to jump into, Mr. Chairman. I think this is one of the ones that I have difficulty with because the way it says the proposed action may produce sound above noise levels established by local regulation. They've been talking about noise, the public has, and we've talked about the sound study being done at the end, afterwards to kind of check to see, but this is where I'm not sure how this would work. First, I'm not sure if we do a sound study after everything is done, how do we compare that to anything? How do we know if it's been mitigated or not?
Yeah, this is a bit of an unusual situation.
Yeah, this is kind of tough here.
You know, and I was trying to elaborate on that, you know, as part of our prior discussion. If this was, say, a warehouse that was being proposed next to a residential neighborhood, you could certainly go out there today and take base sound levels to establish a baseline of what the noise levels might be in that residential area. Without the warehouse. And then you can construct the warehouse and then over a period of time go out and take a number of measurements and see what impact that warehouse is having in its operations on the residences. And you could also retain jurisdiction to require additional mitigation measures as a result of that. So for instance, like a sound wall, for instance, or additional landscaping, or changes in certain aspects of operation could all be adjusted by the planning board in its ongoing review with a post-construction noise survey. This is not something I'm making up on the spot. This is something that happens in other municipalities and is certainly appropriate and can be imposed. The difficulty here is we're not talking about a warehouse. We're talking about this particular project and the recreational aspects of this. A long-winded way of answering your question is that there has to be, prior to the construction, a protocol and some, you know, noise analysis that takes place before this is built.
And that was where I was going.
You know, and that way you can, after it's built, and, you know, and it's not necessarily, you know, like sampling sound on, like the protocol should be such that it would be sufficient to have a high level of confidence that you're actually capturing it. So it might be taking sound level measurements for the existing facility when activities are taking place over a number of different days. And then, you know, you provide all of that information. And that way, you know, after the construction is done, then you have a number of different data points to be looking back over it.
Just to say, this was actually my thing about this, is that if we don't have a baseline, it's difficult to know if we've actually mitigated anything.
Right.
So what I was trying to get to is that should we be having some sort of sound analysis or noise analysis first and then be able to afterwards? Because if we have no basis to start, how do we know if it's been mitigated or not? Does that make sense or not?
Felix, I think I have a solution.
Okay.
The solution is, and what the plan was, is that they could not use the play area until everything was built. So if we take it, a sound test after everything is built, and then do a periodic test thereafter, you'll have your difference to see if the sound barrier is working.
No, actually, we won't. No, we won't.
Why not?
Because that's after it's built. We want to know what it is now and what it is afterwards. That's what I think, right? No?
Well, I thought the people were complaining about the recreation sound. I mean, somebody talked about a truck backing up and beeping, but, you know, you can't do anything about that.
Yes.
You know, that's the law. But what I thought they said they were going to do is put up the buildings, put up the barrier, put up things that they had to do before they would use the field. And then if you take a sound reading when everything is up, and then come back periodically, somebody comes back periodically during whatever time they are using the field, you'll be able to see what the difference is. I mean, that's the two measures. If you take it now, it makes no difference because...
Well, these, to your point, like these sounds are not, in the abstract, easily quantifiable.
Right.
Right, so like if this was an air conditioning unit on top of a warehouse, like there are very specific specifications for how many decibels at what distance that is going to sound like. And so you lay that on a plan, and you can do modeling to say, okay, well, the building is at 40 feet, and the house is over here, and it's at 20 feet, and there, you know, is woods in the way, or whatever, and this is the difference in elevation, and there's modeling that shows what the dissipation in sound would be over that time. Like here, we're talking about we're talking about people. We're not talking about HVAC units.
Well, we had the concern of also the pavilions that were not of what we were going to know what there was going to go on there, and they're a little closer to the perimeter of the properties.
What I would suggest is that on this particular item, I think it would be helpful if the applicant would propose a protocol that the board would include as part of its approval, if it deems that the project is ready for approval, but it would include a protocol so everyone understood now, like when the testing is going to take place to establish the baseline, and then when's the testing going to take place, like once it's under construction, in different scenarios, so that you can see that how, you know, rather than one snapshot in time, that there's multiple snapshots in time, so that you can compare that to, and that could be something that the board can consider. I think for the purposes of the EAF, you know, that this has been identified, this particular question, and I think, Felix, to go back to your original question, is that this is flagged, this is 15A, the proposed action may produce sound above noise levels established by local regulation. And I think it's being flagged, if I may, because we just don't know at this time. It might provide sound above noise levels that are currently regulated, or it may not. But this is a way of finding out in the future whether or not that's the case. And if it is, the board would retain jurisdiction to address that issue in the future, rather than trying to address it in the theoretical abstract.
So we would leave the answer as is for the moment, and then once we go through the EAF, we can then ask the applicant to provide a scope for this, how it would be done, and we would encourage that would probably be done before the next meeting, so that, because presumably the determination of significance would be the next step.
Yeah, so I think, you know, if the board is satisfied, and I realize that we still have some other topics to discuss within this EAF Part 2, but ultimately tonight, if the board is satisfied and is ready to adopt this EAF Part 2 as presented, then the next step would be the authorization of a negative declaration, to be quite honest, unless the board disagrees and finds that there's a potentially significant impact that hasn't been mitigated.
But it sounds to me that in order for this board to consider that negative declaration, having that plan, knowing what that plan would be, would drive.
It would be a detail in the negative declaration to deal with noise, but you're not there yet. I think right now, just trying to identify whether or not these impacts are none to, you know, or moderate to large.
Okay.
I know at the last time we were here, Mr. Bonhoff, I think we had asked about, we talked about this sound or noise study. I thought you guys were going to look into it a little bit. Did you have a chance?
Again, I'm not aware of in the 25-plus years I've done this, of a noise study being required for something like this, so it would be kind of a unprecedented undertaking, but I think what Dominic has laid out as a potential plan is a great idea. There's just, you know, this isn't something that is normally required.
Understood. I just, again, just so many people have talked about it, and I want to see if we make sure we address it without just kind of like throwing it out there without having anything to back up what we're saying. So I think, you know, okay, we'll continue going through the EAF, but I think we have to really kind of focus in on to make sure that this impact is dealt with.
So I think the answer remains unchanged in the EAF Part 2, and then we can discuss how that would impact a negative declaration or how that would be incorporated in, as a condition. But I think for the purpose of this EAF Part 2, are there any other items to discuss on this item 15?
The only other one I wanted to look at was D. The proposed action may result in light shining onto adjacent properties. I know we're talking about the height of, and I know you brought it down to 18 feet. I just want to make sure that our consultants feel confident that that won't be an impact. Because that's something that they keep, it's another one of the things the public has brought up.
We have to go by the lighting plans that they submit, and based on those, there should be no off-site impacts.
But, this is our document, so
Yeah,
if you feel that,
you can certainly
an
flag
asterisk
that
needs
as
to go there, then we could certainly put one there and say the proposed action may result in light shining onto adjoining properties, and put an asterisk and say that perhaps...
Any condition of approval would include that as well.
So it wouldn't necessarily hurt to put an asterisk there if you have a concern.
Yeah, we can flag that. I feel
Okay,
a little bit...
then we'll add that as
15D.
Potential
15D.
impact. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No problem.
Anything else on 15 before we move on?
No, not from me.
Okay, 16, impact on human health. We marked that no. I might want to consider revising that, because you had alluded to the environmental easement.
I think the EAF needs to make mention of how the site includes an area and is in close proximity to an area that was part of the brownfield cleanup program. And we can reference the site number. I have it down here, C3-14-083, which was investigated and remediated under the DEC's brownfield cleanup plan with a certificate of completion issued in 2014, and the site currently undergoes periodic inspection and reporting to the DEC.
Yeah, so I think that would probably fit best under M, other impacts, and we just write that in.
I agree.
And, the mitigation there is they're not allowed to disturb that entire easement area. And the DEC does monitor it so that if at some point someone did disturb it, it would be discovered and appropriate action would be taken by the regulators. So there are mitigation measures in place for that. But I think it's a good one to identify as a potential impact. So we'll change that to yes. We'll include that language that you just mentioned and mark that one with an asterisk. Um, 17, consistency with community plans. The items listed under that heading don't really apply here, so we mark that no.
The version I have has 17 checked as no, but then you have several boxes on the moderate to large. Is that the version you guys?
I think it was a clerical error, because if it's checked no, then they should be left blank.
It should all be like blank. The one I have is blank.
The one I have is
Okay,
blank, too.
I don't know why it came through like that.
Some of these.
Could A not potentially have an asterisk? The proposed actions land use components may be different from, or in sharp contrast to surrounding land use patterns. It's different.
The facility's already being used to some extent.
My only suggestion would be, or question as to whether or not an asterisk belongs there. It is different.
You would. Well, I mean, it's, the zoning of the property hasn't changed. What they're proposing is consistent with what's allowed in the zoning district. I don't think that's one that, you know, I think that would be more appropriate for something that, where they ask for a zone change and all of a sudden you have a new zoning district that didn't exist prior to the development. But again, it's your document. If you would feel better about having this change to yes and that one checked off, I don't see any
I think an asterisk would be appropriate on that. I don't know if the board agrees on that.
So, yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
on A.
All right, so we'll change that to yes.
And 17
Check
at the
off
top
A.
becomes yes.
All right. Okay, I don't believe any of the rest are applicable, so.
Well, I think, for 17, right?
Correct.
Okay, 18 had the same issue, I think 17 did.
Yeah.
Unless you meant to check.
We had checked it, no, I don't know if, it looks like yours may have, I don't know why that happened, I apologize.
Yeah,
but
E and
if-
F were checked moderate to large, but then the top was checked no. I think it's
And
just.
these are online forms that get a little squirrely.
No, I just want to make sure we're in agreement that it's, I believe it's no. I don't know if the rest of the board has any input on that one. Not hearing any, so we can switch that to no.
It's already no, right?
18.
Yeah, 18 is already no.
For some reason, some people have different versions.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
Okay, I had.
Some of this I was finishing up
It's already
remotely,
no,
so that I don't know, there could have been a glitch.
But E and F were checked.
You got one?
Like, I may have had
I
a
don't know.
different.
That's weird.
Maybe it's depending on the Adobe version.
No,
Could be.
18.
Yeah.
But E and F are.
Anyway,
Yeah,
when we looked at this, it didn't appear that any of those items really
I don't know.
were
Maybe
applicable
it's
to this
used on a
project.
phone, maybe?
No, okay, I just want to make sure we're in agreement on that. We have the same.
I think it's depending on what version of Adobe you have.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Okay, so that's the end of the EAF Part 2, so.
Right.
At this point, if there are no further comments from the board, would someone like to make a motion to accept EAF Part 2 and Part 3 as discussed this evening for Fishkill Support Center of Jehovah's Witnesses Site Development Plan and to allow the chair to sign?
No, but he has to make the changes.
Or he would have to make the,
He has to make-
and as amended.
Yeah.
As amended.
I'll get you, if you decide to accept it, I'll get the revised document out tomorrow.
And as amended, so that motion stands.
So moved.
All right,
You
Felix
can't- you
moved
can't
it.
always open
Do I have a
everything
second? Second. BJ seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. So we have now opted the EAF Part 2 and Part 3, and I believe at this point the discussion should move to whether we're in a position to authorize our consultants to draft the determination of significance for consideration at our September meeting. So, I mean, that's the logical next step, unless Dominic, you believe otherwise. I mean,
No, I think that that's the appropriate next steps.
and then we would also discuss whether it would be appropriate to have our consultants begin drafting conditional approvals. And the argument for suggesting that we could would be that we would have our consultants prepare that document for the September meeting so that our board could discuss it, and the applicant would have an opportunity to see it, and we can, because I think the conditions is where I'm really want to make sure that, they're all kind of spelled out properly. So that would be my thought. I don't know what the board's thoughts are about that.
Is there a reason not to?
We could just have determination of significance drafted and discuss that at the next meeting, and then authorize at the following meeting. I think it's beneficial to have the conditional approval drafted, so we have that document in our hands and everybody has an opportunity to review it and to, review whether the conditions that are in there are acceptable, or if the board believes other conditions should be included. And it would give the applicant an opportunity to see what's in that document and to suggest conditions. We wouldn't necessarily have to, adopt that at the next meeting, but we would have it to review. The document would be there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you can just have the document for review, yes.
What does council say?
Yeah, I think that, look, both of these documents are going to be subject to your review, and any revisions that you have. The negative declaration is the logical next step in this process. The EAF Part 2 indicated that most of the impacts were none to small, but it's up to the board to decide whether or not there's been any potential significant impacts that haven't been mitigated as proposed by the applicant. But I think to help focus that discussion, it would be good to have a negative declaration, because the negative declaration is actually going to have more detail in it than the positive declaration. Positive declaration, which would require an environmental impact statement for this project, and involve scoping DEIS and FEIS. And a positive declaration just says that there's an impact that hasn't been mitigated. So it's actually a shorter document in a way, because it's the start of a very beginning of a lengthy process. The negative declaration is going to be a summary of all the mitigation measures that have been proposed to date, and then the board's going to have to decide whether or not that's something that you agree is appropriate for this project. So having that as for your September meeting, I think would be helpful to help focus on that. And I think that it's going to be a fairly complex resolution of approval as well. Once again, there is no obligation that the board actually adopt it, but I think it would potentially help focus your review on these items, like the noise study in particular, and how that would all fit in together, because having it in front of you, rather than talking about it in the abstract as we have been, might show you how it works better.
How would we cover the sound that we were talking about earlier in that?
Okay, so one of the conditions that would be satisfied prior to, after the site plan is approved, would be that there's going to be a protocol. The applicant is going to prepare their protocol, and the protocol would be reviewed and accepted by the board. And that protocol would establish that there would be a number of times that prior to construction where noise analysis is going to occur to establish a baseline. And then after construction is completed, on a number of different occasions, the applicant would then go out and study sound levels after construction, and then report back to the board within a particular time frame, and then the board would review that and retain jurisdiction, which is the key part, right? Because if there's a need to adjust activities that are occurring on the site, if there's a need to do some additional mitigation measures on the site, that board would have the ability to impose those at that time. So I just kind of, that's exactly how that condition is going to read, and that's how it would work. Hopefully, that's at least my proposal as to addressing this issue.
Hey, Bob, if you form that into a motion, I'll make it.
Why? I believe the motion we're looking for at this point would be, I'd be entertaining a motion to authorize our consultants to prepare the draft determination of significance and the draft resolution of preliminary and conditional final approval for the Fishkill Support Center of Jehovah's Witnesses site development plan.
And I will move that.
Fred moves that. Do I have a second?
So we put both of them in one motion? Is okay?
They're just
Okay.
draft
Just
documents.
short?
You're
Okay.
not, like I
I'll
said, you're not
second it.
bound by them.
All right, I'm fine, I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Oh, John Cantor is not here, but,
No, he's-
and
He's absent anyway.
he's absent anyway. So that passes 7-0. So I believe that's the last piece of business for this evening. We've authorized the drafting of those two documents for the next meeting.
And we appreciate that very much. I do have one question, though, on the sound study, because if I understood correctly, one of the conditions will be us proposing how that would take place.
Well, I think, like, you know your operation.
Right.
And so my suggestion is that you should propose a protocol that is going to be effective in establishing what the current sound levels are on a typical, way the site is currently typically operating today. And if you need to, have activities going on while that, because right, I mean, you can't tell everybody, well, everybody go over to the Cracker Barrel, and now we're going to take some, sound levels here. I think it has to be under a typical operation today to establish a baseline. And then it should be, the protocol should also say that, after construction is completed, over a course of a number of different instances, additional sound levels are going to be taken from the same locations. And you should also be identifying in this protocol the locations that you're going to be taking them, which should be ideally close to the residences that are closest to the project. And Mr. Greeley, I'm sure, could assist you in preparation of this protocol, since he's familiar with these types of studies that have occurred in other municipalities.
Thank you for that. I wanted to ask that because I wanted to make sure typical operation now was, because when, for the past 4-ish years, we've been using part of that area just for like pickup games, as the neighbors have commented on. When the noise complaints were first made at the first public hearing, we did not open up those fields this year. We said, leave them closed until we get this addressed and figured out what's happening. So from our standpoint, typical would be to allow them to go back out there and play as they were on the pickup field, what the noise level is now compared to what it would be then. That would be our understanding, because typical now without them playing is not how we typically use that area.
I think
But I want to make sure that that is accurate,
it should be
understand?
typical when you're using the facility, right?
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
If it's, nobody's using it, then there's no sound.
Thank you.
Not run silent, run deep.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah, right. Yeah. It's just, it's hard to quantify this, but we want to make sure that we adequately quantify address.
And
so.
that's the purpose of having you draft this protocol, is so the board can also review it. It's likely going to be an appendix to any kind of approval ultimately for this project, so that everybody understands exactly what's being asked and expected.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification.
I'm just trying to grasp, before we were talking about, AC units and different things for sounds and how you can judge it and get it. The thing I'm having is that depending how many people are there, these are people, it's subjective noise, so I don't know how you're going to get a baseline.
It was a very difficult noise study. Like I said, this is
it's just,
not
I don't know how
HVAC
you're going to do this, because
But they have certain times of the year. You have some community day or this event, that event, right? You can go
That's once a year.
once a year, twice a year, whatever.
But we don't use that field for that. That's only at the Rivercrest portion, so, yeah.
Yeah, and this is, like I was trying to say before, this is the difficulty I'm having with this, is how to actually,
Yeah. But to the point, though, is that, even without this approval,
Right.
and despite the fact that you've been attempting to minimize impacts on the residences because of the noise complaints that came out as a result of this application, you could have games out there tomorrow with no restrictions, right? So like if this project didn't happen,
Right.
tomorrow there would be no restrictions on
Correct.
activities that would be out there. So
Right.
this actually provides a way of quantifying and addressing noise concerns through this process that otherwise wouldn't exist.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you for the comments and the time. A lot of
Thank
time.
I got 10:58 on my clock, so we're gonna do it. We're gonna go to item number 9, Fishkill Self-Storage Facility, Special Use Permit and Site Development Plan, Board to review application and supporting documentation. Sorry, guys, that was referred at the July 4th, you signed up for this, July 14th, 2022 meeting to the Town Planning Board Engineer and Town Planning Board Attorney. You guys can leave if you want.
You guys got 2 minutes.
I believe at this point, I'm going to maybe start by turning to Dominic, because I know we had spoken earlier about this.
Yeah, so at the last meeting, we had provided a memo to the board regarding whether or not this was a type 2 action under seeker, because it was going to, provide a path forward, and I provided an analysis to the board that this was not, in my opinion, a type 2 action, and I believe that the board concurred in that. So the next step in this process is to actually circulate for lead agency for this project, and I think that would be helpful in this process because we could start in getting involved in interested agencies' comments in regards to the project.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, that if we do that tonight, that at least gets the ball rolling, right? So that.
Correct. I mean, do you have any comments that would keep them from circulating?
Well, I would just say that, the EAF that was submitted, there was a lot of information that was left either blank or TBD.
Yeah.
We should probably enhance that a bit if we're going to circulate.
Sure, and there's some missing agencies, so since the last meeting, we've re-brought on Larry Padgey's office, so we can start to fill in a lot of those site civil details.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it would be circulation subject to receipt of a revised EAF.
Okay, and I mean, that's really the logical action to take this evening, just to keep things.
Seeker encourages you to circulate as soon as possible in the process because it gives the opportunity for the other agencies to weigh in regarding the project.
Okay, so John, we're good. No further comment on that, or?
No, I think, similar to what we did for, what was the other one that needed a revised EAF?
The warehouse.
The warehouse, right.
Yep.
So it would just be, upon receipt of that revised document, and then the circulation process could start.
Works for us.
Did we classify this? Not yet, right?
I mean, I believe it would be an unlisted action.
Yeah, it's unlisted.
Okay.
So
That
would we
would make
include that? Should we
That's what
include-
I'm asking.
Sure. I mean, we would identify this as an unlisted action. It's not a type 1 action,
Right.
but it's also
Okay.
not a type 2 action.
So we would do two separate, let's do 2 separate motions?
Sure.
Yeah,
So
that's what I was asking.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to classify Fishkill Self-Storage Facility Special Use Permit and Site Development Plan as an unlisted action.
So moved.
Felix moves it. Do I have a second?
Second.
BJ seconds. Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. And then the other motion that I would entertain would be, entertain a motion for, why am I blanking on this right now?
Circulate for lead agency?
Circulate for lead agency for Fishkill Self-Storage Facility, Special Use Permit and Site Development Plan, and coordinate with interested agencies
Upon receipt of the revised.
upon receipt of the updated EAF Part 1.
So moved.
right, got there.
There we go.
Felix moved it. Do I have a second?
Second.
And VJ second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
I have one other item, if I may.
Sure.
Raised out of the initial appearance, I think by Mr. Johnson, was this question as to whether or not the lot being less than 5 acres is of a deficient lot area. And Mr. Glad reached out to me today and provided some documentation regarding deeds and takings that reduce the overall size of the lot. Two things that I would suggest is, first of all, I think Mr. Glad, you should make those submissions to Debbie so that they could be officially part of the record of the proceeding. But I was looking for the board's authorization to actually provide an analysis of that, so that it'll provide, a path forward regarding any potential issues that might be there and that might not be there. So I haven't dug into, the review of those documents. They were submitted to me informally today, but I would be looking for the board's authorization to report back to you on that issue.
Okay, do I have the motion, that motion?
Yes, let's move that.
Felix moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
VJ seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
I have nothing further.
So circulating to concerned agencies, so we should be getting some input, and we can revisit at the next meeting.
Sure, yeah. I guess, we're going to start to develop the site plan. I guess my only question would be, when do you want us, see us again? I mean, we're happy to come back next month.
Well, I think if I may talk about timing, like the first thing to do would be to submit the revised EAF, and then we would circulate that, but the board wouldn't be able to assume lead agency until at least 30 days has passed after that notice goes out. So for instance, if it doesn't go out until August 31st, the board couldn't take any action at the September meeting because it couldn't even assume lead agency because not enough time has gone by. So my suggestion would be to not come back until at least 30 days have passed after the EAF has been circulated.
Certainly, yeah. Kind of where I was going with that is, I don't know how long it'll take to be responsive on some of the detail sheets for a site plan to your engineer's letter. So just for efficiency,
I think they might be two separate items. I think you might want to see what comes back
Okay.
from circulation to find out if there's any showstoppers, and hearing none, then we wouldn't come back until we made a full submission, once we develop the grading plan, the drainage plan.
Sure.
That
Yeah.
make sense?
If that works for us.
First time doing this.
That seems to be the most prudent approach.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, if that's all you got for us.
All right.
So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair, you have it.
I think I got fifths and sixths, so motion carries. We almost made it.